Planning and Zoning meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We all need to stand for the oath. Okay. You all have your copy. You all recite this.
Individually or simultaneously?
We can simultaneously do this. Okay. I
solemnly swear and affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Kansas, and faithfully discharge my duties with Leavenworth County, so help me God.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote. Jay Swin is absent. Jeanette Lambie Holden is absent.
Excuse me, we can't hear you back here. Can't hear.
Check your microphone.
A.W. Hempel.
Here.
Will Smith.
Here.
Alex DeMoro.
Here.
Mark Denny.
Here.
Terry Bartkowski.
Here.
John Matthews.
Here.
And I'm present, Steve Rosenthal. Got 7 members present. We have election of officers. Do I have a nomination for chairman?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that Steve Rosenthal be appointed chairman.
I second that.
We have a motion on the floor that I will remain chairman. And Mark Denny made the motion, and Wolf seconded. Motion on the floor with the second. Any further discussion? Not, we'll have a roll call vote. John Matthews?
Yes.
Terry Bartkowski?
Yes.
Mark Denny?
Yes.
Alex DeMaro?
Yes.
Will Smith?
Yes.
A.W. Hempel?
Yes,
I'm going to call you Rocky, I'm sorry.
that's fine. Whatever.
And I'm going to abstain, so it passed 6-2, 1 abstain. Now vice chairman. Do I have a motion for vice chairman?
I'll make a motion that we elect Mark Denny as the vice chairman.
Made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who was that?
Terry.
Terry. Motion on the floor with a second to have Mark Denny as vice chairman. Any discussion? Roll call vote. John Matthews?
Yes.
Terry Bartkowski?
Yes.
Mark Denny?
Abstain.
Alex DeMaro?
Yes.
Wolf Smith?
Yes.
Rocky Hempel?
Yes,
And I vote yes. Motion carries 6-2, 1 abstain. Okay. We're to minutes of the last meeting. Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes from this July or June meeting?
Make a motion that we approve the June 12th minutes as printed.
Second. Motion on the floor with a second to approve the minutes as printed. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. John Matthews?
Yes.
Terry Bartkowski?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to have you abstain because you weren't here.
I was.
You were here?
I was.
You was in the audience?
Yeah, right over there.
Actually, you have to abstain because you weren't part of the planning commission last
Yeah.
time.
Right.
I abstained.
Okay. Mark Denny?
Yes.
Alex DeMaro?
Abstain.
Will Smith?
Yes.
Rocky Hempel?
abstain.
Okay, and I vote yes. Motion carries 1, 2, 3, 4 to 3 abstain. Okay. Secretary's report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, we have one item on the consent agenda tonight. I would like to request to move that to the regular agenda because we have some changes to that case. So when you make a motion to approve the agenda, I'd like to just pull it out of the consent.
Okay, anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay, we are to that point, just move the agenda. Do I have a motion on the agenda?
Chairman, I recommend we approve the agenda. However, bringing the item out from consent to a discussed item,
Okay,
item number 1.
okay, do you have a second?
Second.
Mark, seconded. Motion on the floor with the second to approve the agenda with the change of moving the item on the consent agenda, case number DEV 19-065 and 066 to the regular agenda. Any discussion?
I have a discussion.
Yes.
On that particular item, there's one other item on there that needs to be resolved, and that is with the developer. Can they guarantee, or will they guarantee that they will have water on those sites?
We'll get that when we discuss the actual item.
Oh.
Yeah, when we
This is
go
just
ahead
for
and
the
talk
agenda.
about it, but this
Oh,
is
for the
just approving the
Oh, I'm
agenda.
sorry. Okay,
Okay,
I'm the newbie.
yeah, well, you'll get the hang of it soon.
Thanks.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll roll call vote. John Matthews?
Yes.
Gary Bartkowski?
Yes?
Excuse me,
Mark
we
Danny?
can't hear anything you all are saying.
Well,
Turn your volumes up or somebody's microphone.
no way we can turn these up, is there?
I hear nothing.
They are what they
We
are.
can't hear anything back here. No. Please.
Put your mouth against it, we can't hear you.
I'll try to speak louder if I can. Right now, we're having a roll call vote on the agenda. Alex Demaro?
Yes.
Will Smith?
Yes.
Rocky Hempel?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 7-0. Any declarations?
Yes, I'd like to declare two at this time. I received a letter from Dan Yates, or an email, and I also received one from Echo Van Meeteren also.
And that's on the case number DEV 19-008.
That is correct.
Okay.
I spoke with Mr. Mr. Tenberg. He just basically voiced some concerns that he had with the sand.
That same one. Okay. Anybody else have any declarations? Okay. Go to case number DEV 19-065 and 066. Consideration of the preliminary and final plats of Madeline Meadows, 7-lot plat on the tract of land in the southwest quarter of Section 27, Township 9 South, Range 22 East to the 6 p.m. in Leavenworth County, also known as 163rd Street. Request submitted by Herring Survey Company. This is not a public hearing item. Staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners and Chairman. This is case number DEV 19-065066, a request for 7-lot plat located at 163rd in Gilman. The applicants, like I said, are requesting a 7-lot plat. This is located within the City of Lansing's urban growth management area. The plat as a whole meets the regulations for the zoning and subdivision regulations for Leavenworth County. All of the lots are conforming. The reason that we pulled this off of the consent agenda is because it was, we found out much later on, there's an air park, a private air park within the vicinity of this in the landing zone. This is within the landing zone. Mr. Herring is the applicant on this. He is working on making all of the necessary adjustments. He's taking our regulations into account. He's also working with the FAA regulations to make sure there is a restriction zone where is necessary, and there's also an elevation requirement. So we're working on getting all of that done. I apologize for the late notice. Like I said, it's a private air park. So that's the reason that it was taken off. Mr. Bartkowski, we did reach out to the Water District, and water is available. So that memo maybe didn't get in there. I apologize for that, but water is available.
Water District 8?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then as well, when they come in for building permits, they have to bring in verification that they have water available. It's part of.
Yeah, that wasn't addressed, and that was a concern, because I know that's, the Water District is getting a little short.
I understand.
Okay.
So staff is recommending approval of this. You have a memo in front of you. We are recommending that we add an additional condition about ensuring that the height restrictions and the area restrictions are placed on the face of the preliminary and the final plat, so that anyone who purchases one of those lots that is affected by that will know that there are some additional restrictions. Mr. Herring is here. We'll answer any questions that you may have, as will we.
Okay. Did everybody study that plat? Sometimes when it's on the consent agenda, we don't really look at it real well, but I hope everybody did take a look at it.
Yes, I visited the site.
I mean, I review them all the way through, but, so.
I'd like
Any,
Mr. Herring.
any additional questions of staff?
For Mr. Herring.
Oh, yeah, he'll be next.
Okay.
All right, does the applicant wish to speak?
Joe Herring, Herring Surveying, 315 North Fifth Street. Good evening, Commissioners. Welcome to the new members. Basically here to answer any questions. We've been working together with staff, and thanks to them, we were able to keep this on the agenda this evening, and I appreciate that. Here to answer any questions.
Okay. I guess the airport thing is the only thing that we're adding to it, right? So otherwise it was as written, and you did have it on consent agenda, so. I didn't notice anything in there. Anybody else have any questions of the applicant?
Have you been able to do any of the survey yet on the transit areas?
Yes, we had previously surveyed this back in 2013, and just recently I was out on the property and on the runway. You know Wally Winstead was out just east of his property. He has the high point where the landing area takes place.
Right.
Have talked with several other pilots from that area, and we have the elevations. We're just making sure we have the proper elevation to use for the height restriction, which mainly affects Lot 5. And that property owner who's hopefully purchasing the property is aware of the restrictions that will be placed on him. So, and he's agreeable to it.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Any further questions of the applicant? Okay. Is there any additional information to be presented?
Nothing at this time, Chairman.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions, Commissioners? Now I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve case number DEV-19-065-066, preliminary and final plat for Madeline's Meadows, with staff recommendations adding the requirements for a flight path.
Second that. We have a motion on the floor with a second to approve case number DEV 19-065-066, Madeline Meadows, 7-lot plat. It's the preliminary and final plat of Madeline Meadows. With staff recommendation, add that the applicant shall revise the plat to reflect the flight path. Is there any further discussion? Having roll call vote, John Matthews.
Yes.
Terry Bobkowski.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Alex Demaro.
Yes.
Wolf Schmidt. Yes. Rocky Himpel.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 7-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item at 9 a.m. on July 31st at the Leavenworth County Courthouse.
Thank you.
Before we open up the next thing, I just want to remind everybody that this is a public hearing of the Planning and Zoning Commission. When you talk to the Planning and Zoning Commission. You don't address anybody in the audience or anybody else, the applicant, or actually even staff. You're just talking to the members of this commission. Please be courteous and respectful of everybody. There will be a limit to the public portion to 3 minutes per person, so we give everybody a chance to speak before before we have to call it a night. So we want to make sure everybody has a chance to, have their say on that. So, and that, we're going to start off with case number DEV 18-008, consideration application for a special use permit for surface mining and sand quarry, Lenape Sand Quarry on a tract of land located in the southwest quarter of Section 22, Township 12 South, Range 22 East at the 6 p.m. in Leavenworth County, Kansas. Request submitted by Call Valley Companies, also known as 22552 Honey Creek Road. This does require a public hearing. The public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is case number DEV-19-008. This is a special use permit request for an industrial zoned property for a sand mining and quarrying operation. The applicant is Caw Valley Companies out of Kansas City, Kansas. The property owner is the Carolyn E. Spring Trust. The property is located at the southeast corner of 166th and Lenape in the south portion of Leavenworth County. As I said, the applicants are requesting a special use permit for a sand mining operation at 166th and Lenape on a parcel of land that's approximately 220 acres in size in southeast Leavenworth County. The applicants requested this in early 2019. We have spent considerable time with the applicants over the last 6 months or so with their application process, trying to get everything in order to bring to you all. The applicants are requesting a surface mining operation to quarry sand deposits from the floodway, but not within the Kansas River. So what they will essentially be doing is, like I said, on the floodway, not in the Kansas River, they will dredge a hole that they will then fill with water from the water table. They will put a dredge, an electric dredge, into the pit, and they will use a giant vacuum cleaner essentially to suck the sand and deposits out of the water. It'll be separated into 2 different types of sand, coarse and finer materials, and stockpiled on the site. Any sediment that is not going to be used for sand will be set aside for the reclamation efforts that are required through the state, of course. That will have to be protected. They do have an approved stormwater prevention plan, pollution and prevention plan through the state. So all of those things are already in place. Given the assumed levels of deposits, applicants expect the site to be in operation for approximately 20 years. They anticipate roughly 4,000 tons of sand per day up to 4,000 tons of sand per day being excavated from the site. There will be no further processing of the sand on site. It will simply be dredged from the site and stockpiled. There will be Caw Valley employees who come to the site each day, Monday through Friday, between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. in trucks, where they will load the sand onto the trucks and take it to a processing plant at their Kansas City, Kansas, or Edwardsville location, I believe, actually. That's where further processing will take place. The applicants have indicated that they will keep the sand piles damp. The sand, of course, will be wet anyway as it comes out of the water, which will help limit the dust in the air in the area. They also will keep it watered down in times of, really dry weather and such. Once stockpiled, like I said, the sand will await transportation. They anticipate between 8 and 10 trucks per day. They are asking for operations to be Monday through Fridays, 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. That's for dredging. That is not for truck traffic. The trucks, as I said before, would be limited to 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. Their trucks will arrive at their KCK plant, where they will perform their inspections and get on the road before they head to the Leavenworth operation. County staff had originally worked on proposing 2 separate routes. However, after further evaluation, it's been determined that the east route, which you all have a copy of, is the best route for this. The applicants have agreed to substantial improvements. They've also agreed to substantial impact fees, which will be, if approved, will be yearly evaluated. Staff is supportive of this request. I'm going to go through the golden factors. Now, as you all are very well aware, the golden factors are the things that we evaluate when making a decision either for recommending approval or denial of a case. Character of the neighborhood is primarily zoned as industrial. As you can see, everything south of Golden Road, south of the railroad is zoned as I-3 heavy industrial. Right here, I have from March 1962, when Leavenworth County became a zoned county, there's a map in here which indicates from, again, March 1962, this property, was zoned as heavy industrial. So it has been zoned heavy industrial for a very long time. You can have a closer look at that if you would like. There are several homes in the vicinity. All of those homes are north, approximately half a mile or more north of the proposed sand plant. Those homes are located in a rural agricultural zoning district. Within the heavy industrial zoning district, homes are not allowed any longer. So there are a couple of them along those parcels. They've been there for a very long time. But you cannot build a home in I-3 heavy industrial. So this area is zoned heavy industrial. It is not residential. Of course, there's substantial farming that takes place, large-scale farming that takes place in this part of the county. Zoning and uses of nearby property, the zoning of parcels in the immediate area, again, is I-3 heavy industrial. The parcels located north of the railroad tracks, as I said, are rural residential. However, that's north of the railroad tracks. It is not within 1,000 feet or even half a mile of the proposed sand plant. Suitability of the property for the uses to which it has been restricted. The property is located within the I-3 zoning district. The proposed use is allowed with a special use permit. The parcel has large reserves of sand due to its location within the floodway of the Kansas River. Extent to which removal of the restrictions will detrimentally affect nearby property. The surrounding area will experience an increase in heavy truck traffic, that's true, if the proposed use is approved. There will be an increase in noise level. However, staff is currently working with the applicants regarding roadway improvements to help mitigate traffic concerns. Additionally, the applicants have submitted a noise study. If you had an opportunity to read that noise study, you can see that by the time the noise has traveled off of this actual property, it is well within allowable limits, substantially below, in fact. For comparison, a combine operating, if you're 10 feet away from a combine, which of course nobody is, but 10 feet away, the decibels are 100 decibels. That is substantially higher than the highest impact that there will be of the sand plant. Length of time the property has been vacant is zoned. The property has been used for agricultural purposes for at least the last two decades. I'm sure it's substantially longer than that. Relative gain to economic development, public health, safety, and welfare. The proposed use will provide jobs as well as a necessary good. Sand is used to produce concrete and asphalt. It's also used to mitigate flooding. The operations at the site will result in an increase in taxes. Public health, safety, and welfare unlikely to be detrimentally affected. Traffic concerns are being addressed through road improvement and impact fees. Conformance to the comprehensive plan. The future land use map indicates this area is floodplain. Industrial mining of sand is a common use in floodplain areas along rivers. And again, the current zoning of the parcel is I-3 heavy industrial. Staff recommendation is for the approval of special use permits, of the special use permit with conditions. The applicants are here and will answer any questions you may have, as will we.
With the conditions, though.
Of course.
I think we want to go over them this time.
Sure. It's a new system. Commissioner Rosenthal, you wanted me to read them?
Yes.
Okay. One moment. The special use permit shall be limited to a period of 25 years with annual staff evaluations, including calculation of impact fees. The applicant shall agree to compensate the county for the cost of improvements and repairs to the roads based upon the submitted traffic impact study. The applicant shall build a berm along the southern property line. A mixture of evergreen and deciduous trees shall be planted along the berm. The applicant shall submit a landscape plan which has been signed and sealed by a landscape architect to staff for review and approval. The planting shall be substantial so that they provide screening and noise barrier to the golf course to the south. The trees shall be maintained throughout the duration of the special use permit. All operations shall not take place within 105 feet from the center of either 166th Street or Lenape Road. All activities shall be a minimum of 40 feet from the property line. All activity along the southern parcel boundary shall be a minimum of 80 feet from the property line. Machinery shall be well-maintained and lubricated to reduce noise. There shall be no truck traffic associated with the development traveling south on 166th Street into DeSoto. Jake braking shall be prohibited. Trucks shall use only the designated haul route as approved with a special use permit. All trucks exiting the site shall be weighed and must meet legal load limits prior to exiting the site. Trucks shall not enter the site prior to 7 a.m. and shall exit the site no later than 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. Noise shall be limited to 65 decibels along property lines adjacent to residentially zoned parcels. Dredging operations shall be limited to the hours of 6:30 a.m. until 6:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday. The applicants shall file surface mining permit with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. This shall be submitted to Leavenworth County upon completion. The applicant shall pay a traffic impact fee as determined by the county engineer. The special use permit shall be limited to 5 full-time employees, not including truck operators. The applicant shall adhere to the memorandums. No on-street parking shall be allowed. This SUP shall be limited to the narrative and noise study dated June 28, 2019, and this SUP shall comply with all local, state, and federal rules and regulations.
Anything else?
Yes, sir.
Public Works, have any comment?
Our comments are addressed in the memorandum to planning and zoning.
Any questions of staff this time? Just of staff?
I have a question, Crystal. Can you explain to us why, this is zone I3 like we talked about, why we're even hearing this? Because obviously it's an allowed use in industrial, allowed use under our special use permits. So why is this before us?
Because this allows us to put special conditions on the request that we would not be able to put on otherwise. If it were just an allowed outright use, the only thing they would have to submit to us would be a site plan. It would be very difficult to accommodate the increase in truck traffic for the county to be compensated for that. And like I said, we would not be able to put restrictions on it if it were just an outright allowed use.
Okay, so it's the intensity of use as to why we're hearing that. Is that fair to say?
I don't think it really is, because you have truck terminals part of I-3. You can have a truck terminal and run trucks all you want, right? Okay. I-3 zoning allows a truck terminal as well as a rail terminal, and that would be a lot more intense use than this.
Yeah, the only reason for the special use permit is to, so the county can actually ask for some of the improvements and also the impact fees.
Okay.
That's the only reason. The use is allowed by right. I mean, the way that we're doing it is because, so we can ask for additional things from the applicant. That's
Right.
Understand?
I see that it is good for special use in all zoning classes too, right?
Correct.
Not just I-3. So it could be in residential zoning also, but it has to be with a special use permit.
not this use. This use is allowed only in I-3 with the special use permit.
Okay, unless I have it not according to what I saw in our regulations.
Mining operations?
Yeah. That it looked like to me, unless I got an old one or something. I don't have it handy.
What's this?
See what page is that on? Okay, extraction of raw materials such as rock, gravel, sand, and clay. It says special use permit on all classes.
Yeah, that's something that we have to review
Yeah.
at some point.
I was wondering about that. I wouldn't say R2.5 would want.
Yeah, it should only be allowed within industrial zoning.
Okay. So I was kind of wondering about that when I saw this. Okay. Any other questions of staff?
I do. Crystal, you stated that the truck traffic would be 8 to 10 trucks. That's per hour. It's 64 to 80 trucks per day.
Correct. If I said per day, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It was per hour. No,
Yeah, which is-
which is stated in my staff report very clearly.
Yeah. You got two emails here. One is from Gene and Lauren Brown saying they don't want it on County Road 2. It's curvy, hilly, and narrow. I've drove that road. I concur 100%. I see it as a dangerous route personally because it has vegetation all along the side of it, and it is up and down. County Road 3, which I don't know if that's 170th or which one that is, I went over that. That's flatter. It doesn't have all the vegetation on the side.
Did you see then the recommendations they were recommending what was that?
The East Road.
The east route?
Right, which
Yeah.
would put it at 166th Street, County Road 2, right?
But not where the curves are, correct? It goes to Loring Road.
Right, to Loring.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's going to go north and south on County Road 2.
Well, just a little bit.
Pull up that map.
Do you have that map?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah. Crystal, one of the slides you got is the proposed routes, 166 and Lampe. 158. That one. That's, I think that's, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just zooming in so we can,
Yeah. I've got it here.
That's the route.
Right.
It just goes up County Road 2 to Loring Road and then goes east.
Right, I understand. On this, on your side, honestly, I'm trying to make,
They'd be pulling out of 166, then eventually County Road 2 is 158th. It would turn into 158th and head north,
right.
and then head back east onto Loring.
As your notes on this is that Route 1, residential count on that is, and that's part of what I'm concerned about. Your residential count on the Route 1, coming off to the west side, is residential count 8, for farm homesteads of 4, but if you go 2, your residential count is 32, or if your home site's 16.
right, so one of the Route 1, those residential counts are along county roads. That does not take into account all of the residences that are along K32, which as you can clearly see, there are substantially more along K32, which we would be going up this way. Taking Route 2, the eastern route, it terminates in Leavenworth County right here as it continues on Loring Road in Bonner Springs. This is an identified truck route in in Bonner Springs. So it gets it onto a truck route the quickest way possible. And then also, as you can see, there's very little development along here, substantially less than there is on the section of K32 that was originally
Yeah,
proposed.
you're talking Old 32.
Right,
That
yeah.
runs into Bonner Springs.
Yeah.
I understand. I drove that too.
Yeah.
It just seems like a dangerous route to me personally, having drove that. I wouldn't want to live along there and have to pull out with a, 50-ton truck, however heavy those trucks are. That's just me. Okay.
Let's go on with the,
I'm not done.
okay.
The second one you got was from Dan Yates, and Dan Yates is talking that he doesn't think that either of these routes are sufficient. So I don't know anything about roads and construction or anything like that. What's your take on that one, Crystal?
I will default to Mr. Spickelmeyer on specifics about the road. As we have stated, a further traffic impact study will be required. There will be road improvements that will be required. But Mr. Spickelmeyer can answer more specific details on the actual roads.
And the road improvements, and I know that was one of the questions that, in some of these emails, the road improvements and maintenance will be paid before by
Caw
Company
Valley,
instead of the county, right?
correct.
Good point. That's it. Thanks, Crystal.
Okay. Any other questions, staff?
I do have a question. Have you guys considered doing another outside traffic study, or is that still being considered? Another traffic study?
Who did this traffic study?
We have traffic study requirements as part of our request to Caw Valley. They are going to hire a professional engineering firm that's certified to do the work, and we will review that study for its compliance with our rules and regulations and intent, and restrictions and recommendations that are provided by this board and the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay. Any other questions, staff, before we go on?
I have one. The money collected for the route that's paid by the sand company, will that money stay with those roads?
Yes, the intention is for the traffic impact fee to be collected and to be applied to offset impacts by the projected increase in large vehicle traffic on the designated haul route of the special use permit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Thank you. My name is Justin Joel, and this is Jessica McKinney. We're here on behalf of Caw Valley Companies. Also in attendance on behalf of Caw Valley is Dan Hayes, General Manager, and then Tom Ingram, who is an engineer with CFS Engineers, who prepared the various traffic studies, noise studies, and will continue to work with the staff to prepare any additional traffic studies that need to be prepared for this project. A couple comments I'd like to make. We're going to make a short presentation, but I wanted to respond to a few things that Crystal said in her presentation. Crystal mentioned the golden factors, the 6 factors considered to be considered by the Kansas Supreme Court in making these determinations. The Kansas Supreme Court added a 7th consideration in saying what were the recommendations of the permanent or professional staff, and how was that considered by the commissioner of the city when making a decision. As Crystal and the other staff members have said here, we have received the recommendation for the approval of this project from the staff. Second of all, there were some conditions for the special use permit that was set out. I want this commission to know that Caw Valley has agreed to each of those conditions in order to receive a special use permit to proceed with this project in this particular case. When we are done with our short presentation, we would like an opportunity after the public comments to give a short summary if necessary, and we'd ask that opportunity. And then finally, before we get going here, the owner of this property has come in from out of state, Lynn Knudsen, and she would like to have an opportunity, and we're going to start off our presentation with giving her a chance to explain her thoughts on this process as well, and then we will give our short presentation. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lynn Spring Knudsen, also known as the out-of-state landowner. I would like to say a few words and correct a few misconceptions about the Caw Valley Sand Project. I do now live out of state, but I was born and raised in Kansas, and my first husband, Charlie Spring, and I farmed in Leavenworth, Wyandotte, and Johnson counties for 50-plus years. The project land in question was farmed by my husband and his dad, Chester Spring, while Charlie was in high school in the 50s. And he continued farming it until his death in December of 2007. I retired from the nation's largest farm organization, Farm Bureau, in 2011. I tell you this so you know I not only have loved and lived the farm life, but know the ups and downs of agriculture. The decision to lease part of my farm to Kaw Valley was not an easy one. My girls and I have many memories of living and working on this land. The older you get, the harder it is to make changes, but you also learn change can be good when plans are thought through and concerns are addressed correctly. Extreme care was taken when working with Kaw Valley on a reclamation plan and on planning traffic routes. Everything has been done in compliance with state and federal regulations. Safety issues have been addressed, and the reclamation plan will leave the land as a large recreational lake. As the Planning and Zoning Department has explained at length in their public report, this project is in complete compliance with all regulations. Everyone here needs to know the Spring-Knudsen family understands your concerns, and we want to make an effort to make this a win-win situation for all concerned. And lastly, everyone needs only to look at the river bottoms in Kansas City, Kansas, Edwardsville, and Bonner Springs to see that eventually the Linate Bottom will one day house industry and businesses. This bottom ground has been zoned heavy industrial since the 70s, although they said tonight the 60s. So my farm has not been sold, and this project does not include filling the mined ground with hazardous materials as has been put out on social media. The final reclamation will leave a positive recreational site for southern Leavenworth County. A lot of the fake news about the number of trucks, the working hours, the noise and dust levels will all be addressed here tonight by Kaw Valley. So yes, there will be changes to the area, but changes can bring positive results. Please take time to learn the true facts about this project. Thank you.
We have a short slide presentation we would like to make, and I think we've given a pamphlet to each of the committee members here today. Just so it's clear, it's not just the staff of Leavenworth County that has reviewed this particular project. In order to get the permits and approvals necessary, Kaw Valley had to go to various state and federal agencies to determine whether or not we could receive approvals to proceed with the project. Listed on the board up there and in your pamphlets is the approvals that have been received from this project. Obviously, the Leavenworth County Planning Commission staff has approved this and recommended. The United States Department of the Interior, Department of the Army Corps of Engineers, Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks and Tourism, and you can see the other approvals that have been received up there. Each of those agencies had specific responsibilities to look at to address the environmental, to address the water pollution, and the impact on the wildlife in the area. And if we can turn to the next slide, there are comments from various organizations which, in issuing their approvals, I think are very telling. When the Department of the Army Corps of Engineers issued its 404 permit for this project, it said it gave its approval for developing a 188-acre project site for sand dredging. There are conditions on the issuance of that permit, which Kaw Valley is willing to accept and has agreed to accept. The next is the Department of the Interior, and it looked at the various environmental acts that could be affected by this project. And its bottom line conclusion is it found that this project was consistent with the National Environmental Protection Act of 1969, but in coming to that conclusion, it had to look at these other federal acts to determine if there was going to be any violation of those regulations. Then we have the Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks and Tourism did not find any problems with granting its approval of this project, nor did it find that the project will impact any currently listed threatened or endangered species or species in need of conservation. Kansas Historical Society has agreed as well. And then you've got the Kansas Conservation Department failed to find any environmental concerns with the acreage described in this application, and the Division of Water Resources approved the authorizing of the construction of this proposed project. So the various agencies from federal and state levels who have looked at this project have given their tentative approval to the project, subject to the recommendations from the staff of this county being followed and complied with.
And in terms of operation, the operations at the quarry location will run from 6:30 a.m. until 6:30 p.m. And in terms of truck traffic, that will be limited from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. And to give a little bit more context on how the trucks will operate, those trucks are not housed or they don't stay at the location, the quarry location here in Leavenworth County. Those trucks are at a location, a Kaw Valley location in Kansas City, Kansas. And so in the morning, the operators of the trucks would arrive at the Kansas City, Kansas location sometime around that 7 a.m. and drive the trucks from that location to Leavenworth County. So in terms of trucks arriving or traffic arriving in the Leavenworth area, that would be a time that would be closer to 7:20 or 7:30, depending on when those trucks would depart from the Kansas City, Kansas location. And there wouldn't be any trucks after 3 p.m. That's a condition, and that's something that the trucks would be limited to that time frame. Now, the business and the operations are seasonal. So during the peak months of operation at the site, there would be, as you heard, 8 to 10 trucks per hour. And those trucks would be operated, those 8 to 10 trucks are operated by the same truck operator. So you would have the same 8 to 10 folks who would be driving those routes. Their round trip from the quarry location to the Edwardsville processing location, and that would be the trip that those trucks would make. Now during the winter months, the average trucks would be 3 to 4 trucks per hour, so fewer truck trips during that particular time. And as you've heard, the traffic would be on a designated truck route. That truck route is one that gets the traffic in and out of Leavenworth County in the shortest amount of time on Leavenworth County roads. The drivers who are operating these trucks, they are experienced, they're trained, they're fully insured, and they're full-time employees of Kaw Valley. So they work full-time for the company. There will be a scale on the site at the location, and when the trucks are leaving the location, they will be weighed each time to make sure that each of their loads are within the legal load limits for those trucks to be operating on the public roads that they'll be on. And then in terms of the impact that we've talked about and improvements, Kaw Valley will pay for and maintain a dedicated turn lane on 166th Street on the southbound lane. And they will also be paying for and maintaining an acceleration lane that the trucks will use northbound on 166th Street as well. In addition to those improvements, Kaw Valley will be paying an annual usage fee or royalty, or whichever term it is that you prefer to use, in addition to those improvements to the streets. And those royalties, those fees will be used also for maintenance and impact to the roads. And then, of course, in addition to that, there are no local or county incentives that are being put into this project.
If there's any questions during the course of our presentation or any comments, please ask us, because obviously we have Mr. Ingram here who can answer questions about traffic, noise, or the operations of the procedure at the facility, and we also have Mr. Hayes from Kaw Valley. One of the questions is the noise and the noise level. The concession that was made and a condition of the special use permit, as Crystal talked about, is the equipment that's going to be on the pond is going to be electric dredging. It's not going to be diesel or fuel operated. It's going to be electric. As Crystal stated, the noise levels are all within applicable noise levels that are being operated on this property and will be within normal conversation within the half-mile radius of this property, even though there are only 6 residential areas in there. And we are also concerned about the noise level for those 6 residential owners. The equipment that's being operated there will be well-maintained and will be shut off when they're not in use, so there won't be any noise coming from the equipment when it's not in use. The noise will not be coming from on a 24/7 operation. It's only going to be used from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. night, Monday through Fridays, occasionally on Saturdays. So it's not going to be an operation full-time. And once again, that's seasonal. When the weather changes and on weather conditions, that the hours of operation may even be less than that. There are certain mitigation efforts that are being undertaken that are conditions of the special use permit, and that is, as I stated, the equipment has to be well maintained and shut off when not in use. There's going to be noise buffers that are installed to the south of the property. There's going to be a berm, earth berm installed, and then there's going to be up to 500 trees that are going to be planted, all of which is going to be paid for and maintained by Call Valley. There's also a question that has been raised, and I think dealing with dust. And I think Crystal talked about this originally, that when the dust comes and sand comes out of the ground or out of the pond, it's going to be wet. So there won't be any dust there when it comes out of the pond. In addition, Call Valley is not doing any processing at this location. Any processing of the sand will be done at its location in Edwardsville, where it's heated and where it's processed and graded out into the small sand that we see used in so many areas. If it's wet, the likelihood of silica is very, very minimal. In fact, the testing from the federal government is only once every 5 years, and it's not a requirement that there be any ongoing testing at this type of site, as opposed to the processing plant, where there are specific requirements for testing for environmental concerns. I should point out that the sand on this site is similar to the sand that many of us have at our home, where children and grandchildren have played in the sand pits that we have. And you've got a golf course right next door, the Burning Tree Golf Course. It has sand pits, the same type of sand, and there's not a danger of silica exposure from that type of sand. As set forth above, from the environmental standpoint, the equipment that we're using is strictly electrical, except for the loaders and the trucks when they're in use, and they're picking up the trucks and then they're leaving the property. There are no fertilizers or pesticides used on this property, and one of the requirements is that we have to do groundwater testing on a quarterly basis to determine if there's any type of potential contamination. If so, there will be requirements that be taken care of.
Who does that get reported to?
The staff is required that we provide that to the state and to the staff, if I'm not mistaken. And then the lighting, all the lighting surrounding the area will be facing inwards towards the property, not outwards towards the residential areas. So at this point in time, if there's any questions, we'll answer that. If not, we'll wait till the end and address the public concerns.
Okay. I've got a couple.
Questions?
In your briefing, you said that Call Valley employs, I think you said 150 people, whatever it is. How many people is this going to employ at this plant here in Leavenworth County?
There will be 3 to 5 new employees who will be working out of the Call Valley plant in Leavenworth County, plus a project manager. And as Ms. McKinney said, the others are truck drivers who are already employed by Call Valley, who will come in and out driving the trucks.
One of our considerations also needs to be economic development. It's one of our golden, whatever those things are. How is this going to impact the economic development in Leavenworth County?
Well, one of the reasons is you're going to have money that's going to be paid on a yearly basis, and as it was stated, I think, by one of the staff members that there's going to be an annual fee that's going to improve and maintain the roads. There's going to be taxes that are going to be paid by Call Valley for the use and operation of the premises. There are no tax increments or tax incentives being asked for by Call Valley in order to finance or fund this project. And if other companies purchase this, the sand and use that for development in Leavenworth County, there'll be additional sales tax and revenues generated from that.
Do you have any kind of estimate of what kind of income that'll bring to the county?
I do not have, that was not part of the consideration that we received from the staff. I have an idea, a guesstimate as to the additional taxes that will be generated from the property being used for industrial use as opposed to an agricultural use on an annual basis.
And that would be?
About $25,000 to $30,000 additional dollars each year for increase in taxes.
It's not much.
It's not.
Really? Okay. Is Call Valley stuck on that current route that's being recommended?
Well, I think there's a lot of benefits to that route, sir. One is it's the shortest route from the Lene property to the Edwardsville plant. Two, I think as when we talked to the staff about their new proposal, it was indicated it's the quickest way to get these trucks out of the area, and it will actually impact less residential homes than going the western route, which I think was route number 1.
Right.
Because once you get on, you got to go the circular route, then you're going to take 32 to the plant. You're going to actually be going by fewer homes.
The figures didn't show that. That's why I'm confused. And I know Commissioner DeMauro kind of both wondering about which the best route.
I think there's a figure showing the number of homes that were on, when you take Golden Road to Highway 32, how many residential areas are actually on that road, and as well as the number of homes that are set back from that road. And there was just relatively, I think there was 9 homes on the road till you get to that 3.5-mile track until you get to Highway 32. And then I believe there was 4 homes that were set back on Golden Road. So what's that come to 13? But then you have the problem once you get on 32 and you're heading to the plant, there's a lot more residential homes there that you're going to bypass if you take route number 2 and get on K32 closer to the plant.
I don't like to argue with the planning and zoning because I think they do great work, but there's just, sometimes you just drive around and go, that doesn't look good.
Well, they haven't rubber stamped anything that we presented to them. They've thoroughly investigated and reviewed, and they've asked questions, and they've asked us to make changes and give additional studies and additional reports in order for them to come to their conclusions in this case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I ask you guys,
I'm going to ask Mike, I mean, you reviewed it, right? And is this the route, you feel is the best?
Yes, this is without a doubt, the shortest distance that the truck traffic will be traveling through Leavenworth County. The route makes the most sense from a point of view, it gets you out of the county sooner, and we calculated our impact fees to offset the impacts of that traffic on our roadway system.
Well, fastest doesn't mean safest, though. That's my only concern. Is it the safest?
We feel it is the best route.
All right.
Steve, I've got a question. How long have you been working on this project for this site here?
They've been working on this project for over a year.
Okay. And I want to commend you for the packet of information that we got. It was almost overwhelming, and all of the agencies that you've gotten approval from. But there was one missing that I didn't see. Did you have any meetings with any of the residents to hear their concerns or?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think that was asked of us by the staff.
Well, no, it wasn't asked, but, I mean, judging by the crowd and the opposition, it may have been a good idea, just when you're doing something like this. We've had people before that have come to see us, that have held informational meetings and maybe just, dispelled some myths out there, set the record straight. So I just didn't know if you had reached out at all to the community.
We have not,
Okay.
and it's probably a mistake on my part.
I'm not looking to
I'm accepting it.
You know, I was just asking the question.
May I ask if any consideration using rail cars has been thought of?
I think there was consideration, sir. I think the cost is so exorbitant and out of line that you couldn't operate a facility there. It just didn't make sense at all to have
In
the rail.
Leavenworth County, you couldn't?
Pardon me?
Down there, you're in Lenape Corps, you could not make one?
You know, to get to the plant,
Yeah.
the cost would be exorbitant. Couldn't operate the sand plant if you had to pay the cost of getting the rail concessions to get the railway cars to the Edwardsville plant.
Any other questions, applicant?
I have a couple. One I'd like to ask is, do you have all the permits that's required from the state and federal government in hand?
At this time, we believe we do, subject to, meeting all the requirements and conditions.
Okay. And I noticed there was conditions after you set up the plant that you have to notify people also.
It's the same with the staff recommendations. Unless we comply with their conditions, the special use permit is reviewed on an annual basis, and it can be taken away as well for not satisfying those conditions.
And I noticed there, around the perimeter of the project, there's supposed to be some type of barricade. What type are you going to use to secure the site or the premises?
Is there going to be a fence? It's going to be a fence.
It's going to be a fence, okay.
And there'll be signs on the fence as well to warn anybody who's coming into that area as to the potential dangers.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, before I open it up to individuals in favor or opposition to this request, we want first to remind everybody 3-minute time limit. And also, we'd like to see all the people that were notified by mail that were in 1,000 feet that are here who wish to speak. We'd like you to come up first because you are the ones who are most affected by this. So any of you who were notified by mail that were in 1,000 feet of this project, please come up first. And first we will want to hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. So if you're in favor of this request and you're within 1,000 feet of the property, want to come up first at this time, that'd be fine. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Morgan Holander. My residence is 7607 Fairway, Prairie Village, Kansas. I own the adjacent property to the east of the proposed site. It's been in my family since the 1930s, I believe. The Holanders have been in Leavenworth County, southern Leavenworth County for the long time. We received the notice that this hearing was happening, and I thought long and hard about it. Probably the thing that kind of convinced me was, and this was before I was born, in 1951, there was a little flood that deposited a whole bunch of sand on our tract, on the Springs tract, all along that riverbank. And we've tried to farm that for, 50 some odd years, or I don't know how long we've been farming. I lose track of time, but, as of last year, we continue to farm. Yields are not very good when you try to grow stuff in sand. It doesn't work with weather. Agriculture's not as productive as it used to be, and I know change is very difficult for people, but there's a resource here that we've got an industrial zone tract. That sand is needed. There's a shortage of sand in the country too, with all the new homes that are being built, roads and everything else. So I'm in favor of the special use permit for this area of Lenape. It's probably been a long time coming because I remember my father used to get guys wanting to buy land down there and sand off that land for back 20 years ago. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this request within 1,000 feet? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this request? In favor? We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request that were notified by mail that are within 1,000 feet of this property. In opposition.
Thank you for holding this hearing and giving the public the right to speak up about it. My name is Chris Van Meteren. My wife Echo and son James are sitting back there. We own the piece of property that's the Upside Down Oklahoma, just north of the tracks there. My intention was to come and speak primarily about the economic development impact of this project to Leavenworth County. I know that there's probably an argument being made by some who are in favor of this project that if we don't pass this, Leavenworth County or this commission is going to be perceived as anti-growth or anti-business. But in reality, we're actually very blessed to live in Leavenworth County because we already live in one of the few counties in Kansas that's growing, and it's growing pretty substantially. Not only that, our end of the county, the southern end, happens to be one of the fastest growing areas of the county, both in population growth, new homes going up, and in valuations. If you go to the Leavenworth County website, there's a 2019 market study that describes where the growth in Leavenworth County is already taking place. And it's right here in this neighborhood and points north up to Basehor. My primary concern is you're going to kill that growth. If you turn this area into heavy industry, you're going to kill that growth that's already taking place. We certainly would not have invested what we have in our place had we known this kind of development was in the offing. Now, you can blame us for not doing our research and knowing that this was zoned heavy industry. Few homeowners, when you're going out looking for a property to buy, few homeowners think to go to that step. I would ask this, this gal here, Crystal, I believe her name is, made the point that this has been zoned heavy industry since, I believe she said 1962. How many of these homes were there in 1962? Was the golf course there in 1962? I think the people who have come in and invested heavily in this end of the county are going to feel a little hoodwinked if they came in and were allowed to build nice homes, a golf course, build their lives there, and then have what they thought they were buying into converted over into heavy industry. The only other point I would like to make is I see two different maps. As we were watching the staff presentation, I see two different maps being flashed up on the screen. And my question is a sand pit, is a special use permit for a sand quarry allowable in rural residential? Because this map shows that everything south of the railroad tracks is heavy industry, but everything north of the railroad tracks is rural residential. And yet the plan for this plant includes a piece of land north of the tracks. And has that been addressed?
It is part of the Carolyn Spring Trust, and it's owned by them, but that is not part of the operations, no.
So, I'll let it go with that. I've got other things I could say.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? That's within 1,000 feet?
My name is Andrea Boo. I'm an attorney representing the Tenberg Farms LLC, which is within 1,000 feet. My address is 1010 Walnut, Suite 500, Kansas City, Missouri, 64106. I want to first just direct your attention, and there is an order of people who want to testify tonight that will give you some facts that will go into play in the factors that you're considering. But first, I want to direct your attention to Article 22, Section 1. And it says that certain uses, and this is in the special use permit section, are of the type or nature which may be desirable or necessary, but due to their nature may be incompatible with the surrounding area. So you are not required to approve a special use permit. A special use permit is only permitted after approval by the Board of County Commissioners. So I beg to differ to some extent because you are allowed to deny the special use permit if you find that it is incompatible with the surrounding area. And if you look at the factors, the first factor is the character of the neighborhood. And we must look, this is a 224-acre site. If you're looking at a site that's large, you have to expand your idea of what the character of the neighborhood is and what the neighborhood is. On Monday night, I drove this site too, and what I saw was a very narrow lane road, a rural area, and when you look at the character of the neighborhood, you don't look just to the zoning. What's purple and green up on your screen is not the character of the neighborhood. The character of a neighborhood is the rural area where people farm and enjoy a rural way of life. And if you also look at the neighborhood, there is residential within a half a mile of the border of this property. And also, the city of DeSoto is just across the river from the southern border of this. Secondly, if you look at the zoning and uses of the nearby property, it's not just the zoning that you look at, it's the uses as well. All of the property that's zoned industrial is not used as industrial. It's all, according to the assessor's website, an agricultural use. So you can't just be looking at what is this property currently zoned as. You must look at the uses. Thirdly, the suitability of the property for the uses in which it's been restricted. This is not looking at the suitability for use as a sand quarry. If you look at this property in isolation, yes, maybe because it has sand on it, it's suitable. You must look at it in its totality. You must look at, you take into consideration the roads, the traffic, the neighborhoods. And the fact that it's not easily accessible to truck traffic. Most industrial areas are accessible to truck traffic. But I think if I could just have a few more minutes to, okay.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak within 1,000 feet? Within 1,000 feet, or notified by mail? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
Good evening. My name's Mark Tenberg. I live at 16904 Kreider Road. I was born, raised, and have worked my whole adult life very near this proposed site. I farm on 3 sides of it. Between my parents and my wife and I, we own property on 2 sides. In the late 90s, I farmed property that was being pit mined for 8 years until there was nothing left to farm. I have seen the process firsthand, and it is ugly. 166th is one of the only 2 arteries into Leavenworth County from the south. Is that the first thing you want prospective investors to see when he or she comes into the county? I hope all of you realize how serious this matter is. It is not just 20 or 30 years. It will be a lifetime for generations to come. Once Call Valley removes all the sand, they will pack up their equipment and leave. All Leavenworth County will be left with is a big hole. It will never contribute to the food chain again. On June 5th, I spoke with the Leavenworth County appraisers, and they are not sure what value to put on a completed sand pit since there is nothing in the county to compare it to. It is doubtful someone would pay very much for the property. I'm asking you if there are any questions or doubts in your mind. I would hope you would find the answers before you vote on the destruction of 200 acres that will be gone forever. This is a decision that should not be rushed. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Tracy Tenberg. I live at 16904 Kreider Road. As my husband Mark stated, we farm for a living. We're proud to be farmers. I'm not going to go over the different aspects as to why this sand pit proposal is wrong for southern Leavenworth County. I want to provide you with some information and data as to why it is necessary to safeguard not only Leavenworth County's agricultural land, but the United States as a whole. American Farmland Trust, in conjunction with the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service, conducted an in-depth report titled Farms Under Threat: The State of America's Farmland. This report was released May 2018. The report covers the span of 20 years from '92 to 2012. They're currently digging deeper with additional reports to come. Less than 6% of the Earth's surface is conducive for agriculture and growing of food. Only 17% of the United States' agricultural land. The U.S. has been blessed with a great landscape from cropland to woodlands associated with farming. Agriculture is a significant contributor to the local, regional, state, U.S., and global economies. According to the report, between 1992 and 2012, almost 31 million acres of agricultural land was irreversibly lost to development. This land will never produce food again. That's 175 acres per hour, or 1 million per year. Just imagine how much land has already been lost since 2012, let alone in another 10, 20, 30 years. This kind of development puts agriculture and the future of food supply at great risk. The land is most at risk of being converted to non-ag use as landowners age and sell. It's tough on the farmers, and it's especially tough on young farmers trying to get started. We need to make it easier, which provides incentives, support today's young farmers and ranchers. Experts predict that we will need to increase food production by 50 to 70% by 2050 for the ever-growing population. That's only 31 years from now. How are the farmers supposed to do this without the land? It also makes me wonder, how long will it take before we have to start rationing again? Besides being a source of food and economic prosperity, agricultural land provides open space, recreational resources for hunting and fishing, along with the wildlife habitat. It reduces our carbon print by pulling down carbon from the atmosphere. It recharges and filters the groundwater, and it is necessary for flood control. The world as a whole, from each county, state, country, state, county, and city, needs to start safeguarding our invaluable agricultural resources to sustain future generations. The future demands that we do all we can to protect our agricultural land, promote sound farming practices, and keep farmers on the land. No farms equals no food. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
I'd like to speak. Hello, my name is Ralph Wiggins. I live at DeSoto Road and Green Street, right there at the, I'm kind of, I guess, ground zero. And being on the whole, a lot of things I probably didn't hear as well as I should have, but my concerns are, I have a 30-foot well. There is no way this is not going to destroy my water. You can't flood a field like that and not contaminate my well water. I'm not a farmer, but I do enjoy the country setting. I have a nice place there. I'm happy with it. I enjoy seeing the crops and the fields. It's been very productive. I've lived there since 2005. It's been productive farmland, and I've enjoyed that. And the noise that they were talking about, they said, I think it was within a half mile would be acceptable. Not even close to a half mile. It's right there in my backyard. And it's going to destroy my property value. It'll be worth nothing. Also, I am a runner and a cyclist. And the roads are well maintained. I've always appreciated that. But these heavy trucks are going to destroy those roads. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people out there that ride. And it's going to make it dangerous. And I know these trucks, you know, they're going to have to avoid cycling. They're going to have to deal with it because there's a lot of us out there. I hate to see this happen. I would request to get another permit. And I guess guess that's all I've got to say.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Yes, I'm Stacy Schmidt at 17322 Golden Road. I would like to read to you your mission statement. Leavenworth County Planning and Zoning exists to create and maintain a desirable quality of life for all residents, protect our common environments, and to promote the public health, safety, and welfare. Our first and foremost desire is to work with our citizens in a way that meets their aims, goals, ambitions. Through your elected officials, you shape the regulatory environment and our land use patterns and habits. The function of planning and zoning is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of county residents by enforcing the zoning and subdivision regulations and the policies set forth in the comprehensive plan. Our health, safety, welfare, aims, goals, and ambitions are at risk with this proposal. Our quality of life, environment, and future are at stake. As our appointed officials, we depend on your representation. As part of your representation, my husband and I requested in writing that you spend time at the proposed Lenape sand pit. May I see a show of hands who did that? Can you raise them higher, please? 4 out of 9? There's 2 people missing? 4 out of 9. 4 out of 9. All right. We also ask that you drive each route proposed. May I see a show of hands who did that? That's a little bit better. I don't quite understand how you feel you can vote on this without knowing where the site is even at.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Hello, my name is Brett Sullivan. I live at the intersection of 166 and Golden, so I'm kind of ground zero with this thing. I'll make some personal comments and then some economic comments. Personally, we moved in the area in 2004, and when we decided to come up this way, schools and the location were the things that we looked at in buying property. We ended up at Beza, and the location is the reason we came to Leavenworth County rather than Shawnee County and Topeka or any other county Wyandottes. We wanted out in the country to raise our kids and raise our grandkids, so we didn't have to fight traffic and we didn't have all those issues. This is going to have a huge impact on how we live our lives every day, because when you leave my house, if you're going to go to Bonner Springs, you take that same route that those 8-10 trucks an hour are taking. The odds of me having to follow a dump truck from my house, Bonner Springs, are pretty high. So I'm going to have damaged vehicles because of the sand pit coming off the back of the trucks, or chances of accidents greatly increase. Or I have to take a longer route to go wherever I'm going if I go the other direction. So personally, that's the input I had. Economically, I was just a question of they're digging all the sand out of this big hole in Leavenworth County. The company is actually out of Edwardsville, which I believe is Wyandotte. So economically, how does Leavenworth benefit from this project any more so? I mean, I would think the sand's going to be sold out of a different county, so all the sales taxes are going to be coming in for someone else, I would think. In the roads, we keep talking about the routes and the roads. They just resurfaced Golden Road this last week. When you follow Golden Road and then follow that road into Bonner Springs, all the way over to Edwardsville, the road from our place, once you get closer to Bonner Springs, is old concrete road that is already like this, and that's just from regular traffic. You start putting all these heavy sand trucks on top of that. I don't know. I know they've talked about they were going to provide acceleration lanes and entrance lanes, but that means who's going to pay for those roads, because they're not going to last very long once these trucks start running over top of them. And I doubt Golden Road was built with the intent of all that heavy traffic. That's why it's designated that you're not supposed to have trucks on that road to begin with. So I wouldn't think that the road itself was built to handle that. So I don't know how many years down the road that's going to have to be replaced. That's all I have. Thank you.
I have a highly technical audio-visual for you here. My name is Paula Jaskinia, and I live at 13162 158th Street. That's the corner of 158th and Loring. The words and pictures you see here on this visual are taken directly from the LeavenworthCountyPlan.com website for the Leavenworth County Visioning Workshop that was held on May 23rd of this year. This was to begin the process of updating the Leavenworth County Comprehensive Plan. On the website, you'll find this quote: "Ultimately, the goal of this effort is to ensure Leavenworth County can continue to grow in a sustainable way that fulfills the needs of its residents and preserves the integrity of its rural areas." That is the goal published on this website for the purpose of updating how Leavenworth County wants to move forward in the future. Allowing the operation of a sand pit in southeast Leavenworth County and the associated commercial vehicles that will be hauling sand throughout the area daily will do nothing to maintain the rural residential area. In fact, it will begin to deteriorate it. A sand pit in and of itself is not a bad thing. However, as with any new development, it's important to be discretionary in what kind of development is allowed and where that development is allowed. A sand pit at this particular location with no good, efficient access to the highway, having to meander through county roads currently prohibited to truck traffic, is a really bad idea. The operation of the sand pit does not begin and does not end at the entrance to the sand pit. It meanders in the form of trucks, commercial vehicles hauling sand throughout the rural residential areas on roads never designed for this type of everyday volume. And our Leavenworth County government is well aware of this. That's why they passed Resolution 2009-50, prohibiting commercial vehicles on those posted roads with some minor exceptions. Commercial vehicles on those roads are supposed to be the exception, not the rule. In the current comprehensive plan, you'll find the following statement. In a highly mobile society, and especially in Leavenworth County, which has a high influx of residents who were born and raised elsewhere, people often choose their place of residence based on a variety of criteria, including a general sense of the available quality of life. Bringing in this kind of heavy industry at this location will have, and with also as it's part of its operation, heavy trucks running through the rural residential area, will constitute a quality of life and well-being loss for the residents in this area and how we view our community, the pride we have in the area, the belief we have that our local government follows what it publishes, and the homes and lives we've built there. Thank you. Now I hold one of those for you. You want this separate thing? Do you want me to just please? Yeah, okay.
Hi, I'm Mary Lombardo, and I'm a property owner at 16982 Golden Road on the corner of Golden and 170th. The posters I brought today, this is a word cloud, and it's from the updated comprehensive plans visioning recap document that is online. The participants were asked what made them most proud about Leavenworth County. The larger the word size, the more times it was repeated as a response to the question. Some of the responses you see here are rural, community, beauty, and friendly. Nowhere on here do you see heavy industry, mining, sand trucks, silica, hazardous roads, or tonnage fees. This image right down here is used on the project overview and goals page of Leavenworth County Plan Site. Is of pristine nature and agricultural fields. If a sand quarry is allowed, the images in the southeast section of the county will be of dirty industry, covering our fields and roads in fine dust. Please do not grant the special use permit to Caw Valley companies. It will be detrimental to the residents who have made this rural residential area their home. It will be the opposite of preserving the integrity of this rural area, and it will be necessary to go back and reword the vision for the future because it will simply not reflect the needs, wants, or desires expressed by the shareholders of this county. We ask that you do not stray from the current vision that states, ultimately, the goal of this effort is to ensure Leavenworth County can continue to grow in a sustainable way that fulfills the needs of its residents and preserves the integrity of its rural areas. Thank you.
Ma'am, can you move that over here if you want us to see it? That whole counter hides 3/4 of it. There you go. Thank you.
See that balance in it?
One 11578, 166th Street, Linwood, Kansas. I'm Stephanie Swinson, the General Manager of Great Life Golf and Fitness at Burning Tree. We opened Great Life at Burning Tree in 2012 as a franchise location, and we lease our property from the City of Olathe Water Resources Division. Burning Tree has been a hidden jewel due to the elements of the tranquil and quiet wildlife environment for the pleasure of golfers, totaling over 15,000 rounds per year. Golfers visit frequently from pleasures of the calm, serenity, and non-stressed elements. Our members of 400-plus families and hundreds of patrons enjoy the natural sighting of nature with our presence of eagles and wildlife. Our business model was chosen for the environmental elements. There's 4: wind, rain, sun, and no low-level noise of 30 dBA or lower. If just one of these elements are disturbed or removed from our course, it becomes a threat of our wildlife, our golfers, and our business success. Community schools and organizations are a part of our business model. We provide financial assistance and free play for 5 area schools: Basel Linwood, Tonganoxie, DeSoto, Bonner Springs, Mill Valley. The Kansas schools with limited budget, our business allows to play for no pay. Optimist International chartered the Burning Tree Optimist Golf Academy in 2015. This non-for-profit organization teaches children from ages 6 through 14 the fundamentals of golf. Every golf pro, high school golf coach, and student coaches volunteer their time and have reached over 250 children since then, and this academy is unique and has received national awards. Community service and sales tax revenue are 2 large contributing county factors provided by Great Life's existence. So what is our service and tax revenue really worth to the community and the county if this goes in? For the golfers, employees, wildlife, and the business, it is extremely difficult with an approval of a sand plant. It will disturb all the wildlife and eagles foraging and nesting upon Burning Tree. It will disturb the golfers and interfere with the game. The golf business will endure high unlimited maintenance on special equipment that is used for golf course mowing and endless golf cart repairs. Every Leavenworth resident will endure an endless noise and blowing sand dust in faces and clothes. It promotes breathing difficulty and high probability of water contamination, and this is extremely critical. Transportation conditions will be extremely unsafe for the traveling of these roads. A collision with a fully loaded dump truck will not be left with a happy ending of survival. A collision with a non-loaded dump truck will not live an easy lifestyle if survival is obtained. Last year, unfortunately, on January 26th, I was T-boned by a non-loaded dump truck on the driver's door, and I am known as a walking wounded miracle of Overland Park Regional that suffers from excessive brain damage now. Please, no sympathy requested. I'm just providing living proof on how dangerous these roads will become if this passes. I'll be getting my dog soon so I can have a normal life. Please, council, do not allow this opportunity for blood to be shed on our Leavenworth County rural roads.
Thank you, ma'am. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll start again we'll just start again at 7:45. Is that okay? When you're ready.
Steph, you want these?
Steve, we're on.
All right, we're going to continue on with the opposition. For sake of time, we want to give everybody a chance to talk that wants to talk. However, if you're going to say the exact same thing, we really want new information, not the same information repeated. So if you have something to add, we sure appreciate it. We're not going to turn you down, but we are going to stop at some point, we are going to stop the public comment portion. And we want to give everybody a chance that has something new to say to be able to speak. So so we're going to continue on with those individuals wishing to speak in opposition to this request. In opposition.
Don't start my time yet, because I have to hand out some things. You can hand them to me. I would rather hand them to you.
She's going first because she got me here.
That's right, I get a prize. So I was really excited to see a noise study, because see, noise is unwanted sound. So the company is acknowledging that the sound that they're going to be creating is unwanted. I wanted you to get a taste of what the sound is like in rural Leavenworth County. So I did my own sound study. So the packet that you just got, do you want one? So the packet that you just got is kind of showing you what I did. First, you've got a map that shows you where I went for my sound study. I went to different locations all around southern Leavenworth County. And then the next thing that you'll see are some charts that summarize the different sounds that I took. And it also explains how I did the study.
Her name and address.
Oh, your name and address, ma'am.
And now I'm ready to start. Nancy
Oh, yeah,
Carpenter.
you've been started, ma'am.
Nancy Carpenter, 14681 Crider Road in Bonner Springs, which is actually in Sherman Township. So if you go to page 4 of your packet, you're going to find some samples of the study. So what I did, the first one is just to kind of show you what it looks like when I do my studies. So example 1 is showing you, up at the top, the big number is telling you the decibel level at the particular time. The smaller number is telling you what the average decibel level is as time progresses. Down below in the actual graphs, the black line is showing you sound real time, and the red line that goes across is showing you the average as it goes across. This sample was taken on Loring Road on that proposed route in front of Dee Dee Harrington's house. You'll notice something that I want you to see as we continue with this. We have peaks of sound. We had bird call. We have a peak of sound, then it drops down and it hangs out below average. Then you have another peak of sound and it drops down and it hangs down below average. And the decibel level is, every time you increase the decibel level by 10, you are doubling the loudness. It's a logarithmic scale. It's different. It's not a linear type scale. So every time that you have these huge jumps, louder, but in our county, it comes down below the average. If you look at the second one, example 2, this was at location 4, which is actually about a half-mile north of the sand pit location up on the bluff. So these are the people that live up there that bought that land because of the beauty and because of the quiet. What was happening up here cracked me up because the loudest sound up here were cows. I didn't even know there were cows up on that bluff. But as you look at this, you have the peaks. You got some birds going. Then you have a peak and it comes back down and it settles in below average. We have peaks, then it gets quiet. Then we have a peak and then it gets quiet. That's what the sound is like out there in the county, as you guys up here tend to call it. If you look at the third sample, now I went down back to your route that was proposed. This was at location number 5, I believe, yes. This is right where Golden Road turns into 158th Street and goes north. It's right on the corner. So there are loud noises, not just always beautiful sound in our country. But again, that same sort of thing is happening. On that first picture, there was a very insistent bird. You can see that same pattern repeat in all 3 of the pictures. But in that middle picture, loud, there's a pickup truck going by. When the background turns yellow, that's when it's loud. It's above 60 decibels. So it's loud. Cruises along, the pickup truck leaves, but then that same pattern repeats. It drops down and settles in below the average that we are used to in the county. It's very different when you get close to a sand pit. Go ahead and go to that next example, example 4. So I went to the sand pit in Eudora. Across the river from the sand pit in Eudora, there's a bluff, and there's a lovely woman that lives up on top of that bluff, and she let me go out there to do sound readings. Look at example number 4. Example number 4 looks very different than all the others. The sound is just hovering right along that average, not going anywhere else. You know what that sound is? That's the sound of the electric dredge that is across the river from where this woman lives. I asked her if she got used to the sound. She said, no, you don't get used to it. And then she told me what it was like. If you're in a quiet room, almost asleep, and a mosquito starts to circle, is it loud? No. Is it annoying, irritating, persistent? Yes, it is noise. And it's not noise that goes away like in all those other samples where it comes up and then settles back down, comes up and settles back down. No, it is persistent noise.
Thank you, ma'am.
May I have someone's time to finish?
Yes, I'll yield you a minute of my time.
Thank you. The last example that you have, same sand pit, is a truck, a sand truck. Notice, bright yellow, because the decibel level of those sand trucks, 70s, in the 70s. The people along the haul route would be exposed to this kind of noise 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, every 3 to 4 minutes. This is the noise that you are going to subject these people to if you approve this permit. How can this be for the welfare of the people of Leavenworth County if you approve this? You got to say no, folks. You just got to say no. Thank you.
State your name and address since you gave her your time.
What's that, sir?
State your name and address since you gave her your time.
Hi, I'm Jordan M. Mackey, Councilman of Ward 1 for Bonner Springs, Kansas. I am on K32. And on Monday, Mayor Harrington asked that we reserve our comments. So give me a second while I remove my council tag.
You already gave up your time, sir.
I yielded a minute. That was a minute of it. And I'll make it brief. I'm just saying, hi, I'm Jordan M. Mackey. I'm actually running for mayor of Bonner Springs, Kansas for 2020. And I just want to say, hi guys, we're from Bonner. The one you forgot about, the whole city that was forgot about. The whole thing has been botched. It's been crammed down our throat. We've never heard of it. There's 50 people outside that are pissed as heck about the whole thing. I'm stating, I understand how it is to be an elected official, and God love you guys. I know this is a very difficult position for you, as well as the officers that are here, respectfully. I mean, I thank everybody for being here. I just want to say that if you want to cram this down our throat, if I'm elected mayor in 2020, I'll make sure every single truck is cited for every single violation that you've got. Otherwise, you can come to us, chat with everybody, and chat with the citizens. They want to talk to you. I understand that. I'm very, very pro-business. I'm the secretary for the Wyandotte County GOP. I am, as you can see, the red jacket, a Bonner Springs, I was elected to the 2018 Leadership Council. Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it, and as I said, I respect all you guys' positions, thank you.
Okay. There was a letter from Bonner Springs in the package, so they did know. Okay. All right, anybody else wishing to speak in opposition?
Gentlemen, I'll make it real short. It's going to be a long night for you. Kevin Otterman, 14683 158th Street. I heard a preferred route tonight, and I heard one prohibition: thou shalt not go through DeSoto. I hope that there will be more prohibitions. I would like for you to consider that as part of this. I think there should not be traffic directed up to K32 and 158th Street. That intersection is dangerous enough as it is. That should be explicitly excluded. I heard operating hours. Those operating hours overlap with school busing hours. The area in question, you have hills, you have curves, and you have blind driveways. Those trucks should not operate during school busing hours in that area. A couple other points. The railroad track crossing at 166th Street, I hope you're looking seriously at how you will maintain the integrity of that. This morning on my commute route, trains go through there quite frequently. There was enough traffic there this morning that was backed up out onto the adjacent road. Probably a few dozen cars there waiting to get through. I hope you've done traffic counts on that, you're looking at that, but I hope you look seriously at maintaining the integrity of that crossing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patty Shirley. I live at 15177 158th Street. And thank you for listening to our concerns and for getting the facts and information before you make a decision. My chief concern is safety, both traffic and environment. And I'd ask you to consider the impact on the water table of our area. And I have information from the Kansas Geological Survey that I will give you. And I also have a map that shows from the Kansas Geological Survey showing wells that are along the Kaw River in the area that we are looking at tonight. Sand mines and processing facilities pump and use large quantities of groundwater, and that can leave lower water levels in nearby wells and surface waters. Many of the people in this room do use wells for their water. There are major concerns with potential contamination and what this would do to nearby homes, and as well as the golf course, which uses a well for its water, and our water table leading, which leads to the Ogallala Aquifer, which the state of Kansas is part of. Often facilities cause surface water and groundwater pollution, as some products are soluble and then enter the surface waters and the water table. And mainly water-soluble polymers, fuel, and other products used on the trucks and equipment. Often polyacrylamides are used to make the larger chunk of particles that will settle in the sediment tanks that they're using. And granted, some of these will decay within 14 days when there's air exposed to it. When it becomes waterlogged or anaerobic, the time for them to decay lengthens, giving it more time to move its way down through the earth and into the water tables. And where are the contaminants as well as the stormwater runoff going? They are going into our surface waters and our water table. Both the city of DeSoto and the city of Olathe, which owns the Burning Tree Golf Course, have documented concerns that they have about the water contamination, and they have asked that these be addressed. And shouldn't Leavenworth County have greater concerns? This is our land, this is our water. So please understand that I'm not against business or progress, because my husband and I are business owners. But I am against a business or industry that will have so many negative impacts on so many people and the environment that we live in. We are an agricultural and rural community, but being rural does not mean that there's not a population that's being impacted by this. And not only our own county citizens, but also it'll affect DeSoto, where my son lives, and my traveling to him and all the trucks in the way, and the town and school district of Bonner Springs, where I have 5 grandsons that live and travel on those roads every day. So please understand that the real impacts will affect us all, and your mandate is to do what is right for us in our county, and that's what we're asking of you.
Find out if she comes up on short. We'll find out if she comes up on short.
My name's Andrea Harrington Summers. I live at 15251 Loring Road, right on the proposed route. The thought of having 288 trucks a day on our road and empty trucks returning is a sad situation. In 2007, a resolution was passed that includes commercial trucks on our road, that excludes commercial trucks on our roads. What has changed? Nothing. The roads have not changed. The bridges have not changed. They are merely old chip and seal roads with no shoulders. Your proposed route into Bonner Springs has a bridge rated at 13 tons and was built in 1922. So here's the route. Here's my place. Goes into Bonner. There's the little bitty one. And then going up here is the Wolf Creek Bridge. These roads cannot handle 40-ton trucks every 2.5 minutes. We are not against business, but we are against businesses that devalue public safety, property values, and individual rights. I believe the impact would be worse than the benefit. The road studies are grossly inadequate. The proposed routes have bridges that were built in the 20s and 60s. I feel compelled to tell you that the road study was done by the mayor of DeSoto. That seems highly inappropriate. Everyone knows what OSHA is. Well, there is also an MSHA, Mine Safety and Health Administration. I looked into Kaw Valley Sand and Gravel Incorporated, and I was appalled to see that MSHA has given them 142 citations. And 37 citations are delinquent, meaning they have not paid their fines. The citations are scary, and here are a few. 564102, spillage and leakage, flammable and combustible liquid spillage. There's 564104, combustible waste materials, including liquid, shall not accumulate in quantities that could create a fire hazard. Another citation was 565001, exposure limits for airborne contaminants. These are merely a few of their citations. This does not seem like a good fit for our community. Listen, I've played this game before. In 2002, we were all here with the exact same special use permit that was right across the street from the one today. The permit was denied. Why? Because of all the reasons and concerns we are talking to you here about tonight. The only difference is the landowner was on our side and now she is opposing us. I'm from a good Christian family, and it's in God's favor to honor thy neighbor, but sadly, they are not following that rule. Please listen to our concerns and deny the special use permit. And you said that you were saying 158th Street, County Road 2, you were talking about that going up. This is the curve. I mean, that's it. I don't know how in the world you could get a truck and a school bus on that and that. It just doesn't seem logical.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Williams, 12725 166th Street. Thank you for hearing me this evening and welcome new members. Tonight's vote on the Kaw Valley Sand Pit may be the most important of your career. It is 100% guaranteed to adversely affect the health and safety of thousands of people living in 3 counties and must be handled with utmost care, concern, and education. I am weary, exhausted by the regular barrage of threats to life as we know it in beautiful southern Leavenworth County. First, the Patriot Highway, then Tyson, now the Kaw Valley Sand Pit. When these companies, with records riddled with myriad environmental and health and safety violations, set their sights on our bucolic neighborhood for their devastating industries, I am always overwhelmed with pride by the response of my community, neighbors, and friends. This is a special place. Its remote location does not make it worth sacrificing to industry that will ruin its feel for generations. My most important job is to mother my children, provide safe shelter, square meals, the right car, best seats, wipe tears, celebrate joys. Tonight, 12 years of protecting my family can be undone by your vote because you are forcing my community to consider sharing space with a sand mine. Today, I emailed Planning and Zoning 2 easy articles about the dangers of silica. Have you researched silica before voting tonight? Ignorance regarding silica is blissful compared to knowing the facts. Here are 2 vials prepared by a local lab to help visualize maximum acceptable amounts of silica exposure in a 24-hour period and in 1 year. You can have a look if you're interested. Silica is a known human carcinogen. No one is immune. Elderly folks, children, and those with compromised immunity will suffer most. Damage to respiratory system, silicosis, arthritis, renal failure, lupus, kidney damage, heart failure, asthma, bronchitis, chronic pulmonary disorders, tuberculosis, and lung cancer. Children have smaller airways and breathe more air on a body weight basis. Proposed truck routes touch the corner of a block containing 3 Bonner Springs schools, as well as bus routes to 4 Basehor Linwood schools, 7 schools in all, not to mention all truck routes mingle with a school bus route, with all school bus routes. A silica particle is smaller than the width of a human hair or a grain of beach sand and currently lies undisturbed in this beautiful community. Should you approve this permit, it will be broadcast for miles over thousands of acres, homes, and people. You cannot have a sand mining operation without releasing silica. It's not possible to keep communities safe. Silica cannot be contained. Exposure is guaranteed. Let's take care not to let silica be the new asbestos. Have you personally driven the proposed routes to and from the location of the pit?
You've already been asked that.
Sorry, I was out there, couldn't hear. The Kaw Valley Company has made weekly changes and adjustments to important facts and data in an attempt to control with chaos. But even still, the routes range from approximately 11 to 16 miles. Every route passes homes, businesses, farms, bus stops, summer camps, pastures, crops, livestock, families, generations, legacies, hopes, and dreams. Each and every one of the hundreds of trucks per day for 20-plus years will send invisible plumes of deadly silica into the homes and bodies of thousands of residents in 3 counties. If you have not bothered to visit or drive the route or see the site, how could you possibly vote to approve this permit? Thank you.
My name's Tony Schmidt. I live at 17322 Golden Road. I have a little observation. On Saturday, June 29th, my brother and I visited 4 sand pits in our area. 2 operated by Holiday Sand and 2 by Kaw Valley Sand. The Holiday Sand operation at 21900 Powell Drive is all but closed. The second location was 25355 West 43rd Street. This pit has significance today as it is the closest in size to the proposed Lenape Sand Pit. This site was not open for business. It had secure fencing around the entire acreage with warning and no trespassing signs. The third pit was the Kaw Valley Sand Pit on 9501 Wood End Road. This is where the Lenape sand will be trucked to process as they have a sand drying unit. We arrived at approximately 10 a.m. Upon arrival, the first thing we heard was the dredge running. Then backup alarms from both the wheel loader and dozer being used. We proceeded to the entrance road to park in an adjacent warehouse parking lot. We witnessed a loaded Kaw Valley sand truck leaving the pit. It bypassed the scale and exited to a public road. The dredge was operating on the west side while the dozer was pushing construction debris into the pit on the east side. The water level was high and drained into a ditch south of the warehouse flowing straight into the river. There was an entry gate at this location with no fence or caution signs. The fourth and final pit we visited was Kaw Valley Sand at 8440 Gibbs Road. This is no longer a sand operation, it is a dump site. Once again, there was an entry gate but no fencing or signage. In a 15-minute span, 17 trucks were counted either entering or exiting. Once again, this was a Saturday. What we witnessed contradicts Call Valley's Lenape proposal. Why would their practices change in Leavenworth County? I have some pictures here that I'll provide to the committee, and I want you to notice that the entrance and exit roads at all 4 locations do not pass any residences, golf courses, schools, school bus routes, or bike routes. They are strictly in industrial areas. Also make note of the destruction of the earth and the overall scope of this project. I have worked construction my whole adult life. Bottom line, if planning and zoning and county commissioners agree to this, once the operation is in full production, they will do what every other construction company does. They will move as much sand as humanly possible in a day's time. They will take the most convenient route to travel. Saturdays will be the normal, not the exception, and this will last for 50-plus years. Thank you.
Give him to the chairman, he's just got one set.
My name is Cecil Mashburn. I live at 12654 170th, Sherman County, Sherman Township, Leavenworth County, Kansas. I'm also a member of the Amiskwatt tribe of Cherokees, which will relate to what I'm going to talk about. I'm also a retired federal inspector specialized in right-of-way. Now, I'm going to talk to you about 3 subjects. The main one is the eagle, the eastern hognose snake, and Native American artifacts. On the eagle, it has been found that there is a nest within approximately of the proposed project. This is under U.S. C-16, 638-638C of 1940 and been amended. It says that, number 1, you can't have any work that is inside of a nest. This will be a serious problem. The landowners want to receive money. The company wants to get a business going. And we as citizens of the area are concerned about the safety. Well, this eagle will probably shut the project down. I don't know. He said that they talked to Fish and Game. I've talked to Fish and Game at the state of Kansas and the federal government, and nobody's ever heard of it, what's going on, and nobody's been there. However, tomorrow at 11 o'clock there will be an inspector there to see if it's category A or category B. So before you give them a permit to do anything, it costs them much more money. I think you should delay your voting for a few days until we get the results back from the federal government. The second thing is the hognose snake, or sand snake, is nesting in that area, and it is off the endangered species, but it's on the protected species where you can't destroy it lays eggs instead of live bird, and you can't kill it. So that is in that area, and it will disturb that's nesting. I want to go back to the eagle one time more. The 3 people in this audience, including me, I'm one of them, have seen the eagle feed in this proposed area on the ground. In my particular cases in the winter, the other ones was in the summer. And we were willing to sign the affidavit as such, and you know affidavit is legal. Out of time, sorry.
You can have my time. You want to keep going, you can have my time.
What? Well, I just got,
Who are you, sir?
Huh?
You're giving your time up.
My name is Andy DePriest. I live at 13970 158th Street.
Okay.
Not only have I lived at my address 12 years, I graduated from Baser in 1958. 17th of my class, 17 in it, so I made it at 17. But I just want to let you know I've been associated with Leavenworth County all my life, except I lived a year in Russia, a year in Ukraine, a year in Uzbekistan, and don't go to Uzbekistan. Native American artifacts. Unfortunately, Mr. Kraus died last week, but he has showed me several times artifacts he's found on his property. And other people have found artifacts. The people of Haskell is very much interested in checking this out, because if any graves or any campsite is found, this will also delay the project or even stop it. And everybody knows how long it took for Highway 10 to get approved to pass Lawrence. And I just I'm bringing this out because I don't want the company to spend more money, I don't want the landlords to lose, and I don't want my neighbors to be upset, because it will be shut down probably if that eagle nest is where it's supposed to be. So that's all I have. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
No questions?
Got 15 more minutes, and then we're going to shut the public comment portion down, so. Use your.
Hey, we appreciate your time, but I thought you were wanting to hear everybody.
Well, we will, but we got something new, that's why we want to hear people.
My name's Alan Juscinia. My driveway is approximately 300 feet south of 158th and Loring, County Road 2, however you choose. I heard about a traffic study, so I did one of my own. Over the period of 6 days, 3 days and 2 weeks, during business hours, I did it from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I can see the intersection from my property, from my shop, and what I came up with, I broke it down into 5 different groups. Over those 6 days, I averaged 31 commercial vehicles, which is anything that had at least 6 tires on it. 23 motorcycles and bicycles, simply for simplicity. Farm equipment, there were at least, averaged out 3. I averaged out 8 dump trucks. I averaged out 11 tractor trailers, with 2 of them that made U-turns in the intersection of 158th and Loring. That's over the period of 4 hours. Looking at the traffic impact study conducted by Cobb Valley, and my latest one is 6/28 of 19. That puts 8 to 10 round trips with a maximum hourly truck volume. That's round trips. Making the corner at 158th and Loring. Add these numbers to those that I came up with earlier, and you've got a lot of industrial traffic. This is a poor site. I just don't understand how it can be still listed as heavy industrial. I don't know whether these vehicles that I counted continued west on Golden or went south to Loring. I wasn't down there. The whole point of it is, I have over 20 years of fatality accident investigation. Your numbers are going to go up. When you turn a full truck east onto Loring, or an empty truck turning south off of 158, you have, that's just going to add so much traffic to that intersection. According to KDOT records, between 2017 and 2019, you had a total of 5 accidents at 158th and Loring. That does not include the hills and curves to the south. Doesn't include any of that. One was listed as intersectional, 2 of them were listed as intersection related. I don't see how this can work. We've heard about the silica, we've heard about the traffic. That's perfect timing for me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. Ladies, thank you very much.
I'm Jim Watts. I live south of Leavenworth, Sherman Township, off 166. A couple of things that I've heard tonight I wanted to talk about. is the traffic study. I guess I had a little concern that Call Valley performed the traffic studies that were going on. Is it possible or feasible to get an outside concern, and maybe we could hear about fatality records instead of just, traffic levels and things like that, and identify the choke points or danger points that we're going to have if we move the sand and the traffic over the routes that are proposed. I don't know if you guys can do that. Might be something to consider. One thing I did want to address is the rail possibility and taking this sand off of the highways in that area. Now, that's not going to solve the problems of the people that don't want the pit at all. It's really not. But you've had a lot of people talking about safety and the fact that we're going to put all this traffic on the highways. I heard somebody from Call Valley, I apologize, I don't know y'all, but somebody talked about it's prohibitively expensive. Well, I didn't hear any numbers attached to that, or I didn't hear if anybody's talked to Union Pacific Railroad. That would actually be a Call Valley function to approach that and start that, but maybe you could encourage that. It is expensive, but railroads these days are building flyovers in Wichita, Kansas. That town was built around the railroads, and all the traffic that was going through the town, emergency vehicles and all that, it was a terrible situation. So the public-private sector got together and spent about $90 million, and they built basically an overpass so the trains run over the traffic, and they opened Wichita up. There are 2 flyovers in Kansas City, Missouri, at the cost of about $500 million. And again, to take trains out of the mix of traffic so you don't have that interaction. It's a good situation. There's another one in Olathe that I wasn't involved in that, don't know what the cost is, but they're flying over Olathe now and getting out of that. Now, if you look at 4,000 tons of sand a day, that's a lot of sand. I don't know what y'all are going to do with that, but if you look at a rail car, you look at about 3 truckloads of sand for 1 rail car. So if you take that 4,000 tons of sand per day, it's 8 million pounds of sand. That kind of, I don't know what we're going to do with 4,000 tons a day, and I'm sure that's not the target production level on a daily basis, but it is a lot of sand. And I really think that you ought to ask for a feasibility study and put that on the rail. There are public monies available, there are private monies available. Of course, we'd ask Call Valley and Leavenworth County and Kansas DOT to participate in the cost. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm Mike McDonald, 14439 Wood End Road, that is in Leavenworth County. I am here to implore the Planning Commission to use the power and authority that you have to get answers to the questions that you may have and be able to answer to the constituents and the residents of the county the questions that we have brought to you this evening. I've gave a lot of information to you previously, and I've provided some more this evening. This will be a much shorter version of that. There is a similar proposal was mentioned in 2002 for a hard rock limestone mine in the Bluffs. It had exactly the same issues as we are talking about here today, and ultimately that was rejected for traffic by the Planning Commission on a 5-4 vote and rejected by the County Commission by a 3-0 vote, and the project was denied. For the current applications, there are a lot of questions far beyond the Golden official zoning questions. We talked about some of those this evening. What does the county get from this? What is the penalty for failure? One thing has been barely talked about is the safety of the work area. Safety, first and foremost, should be the top of the list. Nowhere in any of the material that Call Valley has provided, nowhere in the material that the staff has provided is the word fence to be found. Yet it was mentioned here tonight like it was a done deal. I urge you to get that as a definitive answer if a fence is a requirement. Having a fence as a requirement will protect people from dying, will protect pets and animals from dying in the pit. Floodplain is an issue. Kaw Valley has a floodplain study, a no-rise certificate completed and ready for submittal to the county, currently at the state. It took 2 or 3 iterations for them to get it almost right, yet we have added several things to that, and they need to do it again. That we have added a sound berm, We apparently have added a fence. There is not clear delineation of the stockpiles for topsoil, and the sand stockpile that was modeled was something on the order of maybe 200 feet long. These are immense stockpiles. I urge the Planning Commission to have an independent review of the floodplain study that will be submitted to you very, very shortly. Water quality, we have not talked to any of the other water districts. I suggest the Planning Commission would like to have an official discussion with water districts in Johnson County or DeSoto or possibly Johnson County Water 1 and Olathe. Are they satisfied that the protective measures that is proposed will protect their water from contamination? They've talked about agricultural runoff into the pit. That's not mentioned anywhere. It's a berm. It needs to be modeled. There are several other issues in here. If you have questions about them, my contact information is here.
Thank you, sir.
This is something to put you to sleep tonight.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Dan Yates. I live at 15256 Loring Road. For the past 40 years, I've been involved in the concrete and asphalt business. The first 20, I worked for major contractors building roads, primarily in the Johnson County area. 40 years ago, many of the roads we improved were just like the roads being considered for heavy truck routes. Most metropolitan areas have adopted and implemented universally recognized specifications for main arteries that carry truck traffic. A typical cross-section of these roads have 12-foot lanes, 12 inches asphalt, or 10-inch concrete. Where there's no curb, they have a 12-foot wide shoulder that is either paved or rock. Beyond that, the maximum slope is 3 to 1. The roads we have are chip and seal. Chip and seal is nothing more than a wearing surface that has almost no structural integrity with respect to load carrying capacity. The evidence of this is demonstrated every year around this time when you observe motor graders or more recently a lay-down machine applying a very thin leveling course to fill in the wheel ruts created by the normal car traffic we have now. Repeated truck traffic with growth weights exceeding 80,000 pounds will destroy these roads. Probably the biggest disqualifier is the fact that these roads have no shoulders. One of the functions of shoulders is to help stabilize the roadway, but more importantly, it is a safe escape route for motorists in case of an emergency. This is especially important on roads with blind curves such as ours. This is a paragraph straight out of the design manual. Of particular concern to the design engineer is the number of single vehicle run-off-the-road accidents which occur even on the safest facilities. About 1/3 of all highway fatalities are associated with accidents of this nature. The configuration and condition of the roadside greatly affect the extent of damages and injuries from these accidents. For adequate safety, it is desirable to provide an unencumbered roadside recovery area that is as wide as practicable. Another disqualifier is the fact that in these standards, a typical radius for a semi-length truck is 75 foot. The radius at 166th and Golden Road is at best 15 feet. This makes it impossible for a large truck to take these corners without crossing over the center line. I have provided copies of engineering diagrams illustrating this. I am providing reference design characteristics from the American Association of Highway Transportation Guide for Design of Pavement Structures. I also referenced the Overland Park Construction Standards Manual. These design characteristics are not unique to Overland Park. The majority of cities and counties in the metro area have similar standards. It does strike us as curious as to why these roads are all marked no trucks, but have all of a sudden considered truck routes. I am also an avid cyclist. The Loring and 166 route is one of the few routes for cyclists to access an east-west route out of town. The MS 150 and several other benefit rides use 158th Street. Letting this project go forward without proper roadways is irresponsible and could lead to litigation in the event someone is injured or killed.
Thank you, sir.
I will add that 10 years I was a firefighter and an EMT, and I worked with guys like this, and I pulled some of my neighbors' dead bodies out of their cars. I hope it's none of your kids next time.
Thank you, sir. There's 4 people online. I say, I'm asking the rest of you to limit to those 4 people. That'll make it a little after 8:30. Is that
I'd like
okay?
to.
Okay, we'll take these last 4 people.
Thank you. My name is Mike Brungard, 32905 West 84th Street in DeSoto, Kansas. I'm the city administrator in DeSoto. I don't want to take any more time than I need to tonight, but I did want to let you know that the DeSoto governing body has not established an official position on the merits of the proposal, so I'm not speaking for it or against it, but we do have 3 main areas of concern which are mostly addressed within the staff report and the conditions connected to those. Those were truck traffic, noise, and groundwater quality. We are very satisfied with the staff's approval recommendations relating to truck traffic and noise. However, the groundwater quality, we would encourage you, if you're inclined to submit a positive recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, to include a requirement for quarterly groundwater monitoring. It might be in the state, the KDHE's regulations to do some monitoring. However, we feel that local control of that monitoring would be more effective for us and put us in a more comfortable position. We do have a public water well within a quarter mile of the proposed dredge pit. We understand that the approval conditions require a berm around that dredge pit to limit surface water inflow. We think the situation is manageable, but we do need to watch it carefully and encourage you to include a quarterly monitoring requirement in your recommendation. Thank you.
Sir, how deep is your well a quarter mile away?
Yeah, we have 3 of them. The one a quarter mile away is about 65 feet deep. They range from 60 to 80. And we get really good water at about 60. The water table is usually about 15 feet below the current ground surface.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, my name is Ben Morgan. I live on 158th and Golden Road, right along that windy stretch that heads down to the bottoms. We moved to this location about 2.5 years ago, and we enjoy our property that overlooks the beauty of the farm grounds down throughout the river bottoms. We love to see all the wildlife and the bald eagles that circle the hills on their way back to the nests along the river. My family and I also share a lot of the concerns that you've heard tonight, but I want to focus on just one point. I got some information from KDOT and Leavenworth County Sheriff Department. As for commercial motor vehicle inspections, the Sheriff's Office does not conduct any motor vehicle inspections. They don't have the trainings or the certifications with the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance. The Kansas Highway Patrol does, but they don't typically operate outside of state highways and are rarely even found on K-32. It should be also noted that the ability to safely conduct a motor vehicle inspection on the proposed routes is almost impossible due to a lack of shoulders, acceptable side streets, parking lots, etc. Regarding the county resolutions and traffic enforcement, the Sheriff's Office only enforces the state statutes. They have the ability to enforce county resolutions such as no truck routes. However, the Leavenworth County District Court doesn't have a process to adjudicate these cases, so violations are ultimately neglected. Additionally, the Sheriff's Office does not have a traffic safety unit, nor do they plan to have one implemented in the near future due to manpower. So my data from KDOT, I know the truck route had changed and there were some different scenarios. So what I took was all the routes for this study. It was May 30, 2017 to June 25th, 2019. And so it's basically just over the last 2 years. Took a look at it, and the number of vehicles involved in a crash right in our neighborhood, and basically in that map. Any guesses on how many vehicles were in a crash? There's 91 vehicles, and 37 people injured as a result of those. This KDOT crash study provides details of the crashes, such as vehicles overturned, crashes due to animals in the road, and even crashes with pedestrians. I have 4 small children. They don't deserve to be put at additional risk from excessive amount of trucks on sand-covered roads. My 14-year-old daughter will be driving soon, and I dread the thought of her safety being put at further risk on our county roads. I'm asking for your representation in deciding what is safe for the Leavenworth County residents. Thank you for listening to my concerns.
Hello, I'm Angie Morgan. I'm at 12548 158th Street in Linwood, Kansas, also on the route, or one of the routes. I am a civil engineer. I have 14 years of experience in site development. I've worked in 48 states and internationally. I'm a registered professional engineer in 14 states and help interpret code and ordinances all over the country daily. The recommendations I am making are not unheard of and exist in other regions. When I became a civil engineer, I took a pledge that included these words: when needed, my skill and knowledge shall be given without reservation for the public good. I have no doubt that the Leavenworth County staff and state and federal agencies hold the public's good at the utmost priority. And that is why there are so many conditions and criteria set to all the approvals that have been given to date. I appreciate the efforts that the county has taken so far to do their part to set those metrics, but how are we going to monitor and measure these metrics that we are requiring? In the documents I can leave behind, I'm outlining some specific ways I think metrics could be enforced, monitored, and based on my experience in other regions. My doubt lies in the regulating, enforcing, and monitoring of any requirements. Will the monitoring and reporting be left to the neighbors? And as those violations are being reported, what is the consequence? More unpaid fines? I propose these measures be forced on Kaw Valley and the threat of removal of the special use permit be tied to measurable and written criteria that the commission stands behind their word. It's an easy out to say the SUP will be reviewed annually, but ask yourselves, how serious is the county on revoking the SUP if any violations occur? In the private industry, we run cost-benefit analysis for major decisions that impact others and require financial commitments and risk. I'm confident that if the county ran this analysis on this SUP, they would find the cost and risk to outweigh the benefit. If you remember nothing else I've said, please remember this: you have the power in your position, and I would not want to be in your seat today, but you choose to be a representative for the people of this county, and the power and authority that you have is on your shoulders as much as it is on mine as a civil engineer. And this is from the application itself. Members of the Planning Commission evaluate the applications given consideration of the recommendations from the planning staff. They may impose any conditions they consider necessary to ensure public safety, health, and welfare. I'll start reading these, but I know I'm not going to get through some of these. We've talked about the traffic study. I don't think it's unusual or I would recommend that you guys administer that traffic study and have Kaw Valley pay you back. It's obvious from the traffic study that they previously submitted, it wasn't done in all the ways that we want. That's why people are concerned and talking about that. It talks of, and if anybody would like these, I can leave all these recommendations.
Thank you.
You got copies of them?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, you can leave.
Thanks.
Okay, sir, you had the last word.
Good evening. My name's Rick Frederick. I am a resident of Leavenworth County. Prior to the tornado, I resided at 15225 161st Street in Bear Lake subdivision. I am a member of the Bear Lake Homes Association Board, and I'd like to begin by thanking the commission for your service, as I believe each of you serve on a volunteer basis, and I appreciate your service. And I'll make this brief. I would like it noted for the record that the Bear Lake Board strongly opposes the proposed special use request. We believe that, I have nothing to add, but we do believe that traffic safety would be significantly compromised by not only the increase and presence of heavy truck traffic, but also, I think, the additional inevitable road repairs and traffic hazards that would have to occur on 158th Street and beyond. I've been a financial executive, a chief financial officer for over, I have a lot of gray hair, for over 35 years. I've been in the business of evaluating economics. And I heard tonight, which prompted me to come in, that maybe this proposal would raise $25,000 for the county and might add 2 or 3 resident Leavenworth County employees. I believe that the Wyandotte County Bridge is a gateway to what I've seen as thriving residential development in South Leavenworth County in that area. And I'm going to close by asking, how many new homes are we talking about in terms of real estate tax, not to mention the economic development that flows from additional residents? But really, how many new homes would it take, just simple math, to raise $25,000 of additional real estate tax? I don't think very many. And I'm confident in saying that I think that as a gateway to Leavenworth County, a sand pit would probably preclude quite a bit of development in that way. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, the public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Is there any additional information, staff?
Nothing at this time, Chairman.
Okay, we were at the point of any questions or comments from the commissioners. For the new people, I want you to know that if there's anybody that you want to address that has spoke or even in there, we can have them come forward, but they are not allowed to speak on their own. So, and I do want the applicant to come forward and address a lot of these concerns that were addressed tonight. So, you heard a lot of concerns.
Yes, and I appreciate each of the people.
Way longer than 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You got way longer than 3 minutes already.
3 minutes. I'll be glad to address this in 3 minutes.
You had your chance though. You got
Okay,
Hold
on. The chairman's running the meeting, not you folks. He said he can speak. I'm not going to say it again. If you speak again, you can leave. It's going to be a peaceful meeting. That's why I'm here. You can
We
smile
want
all
him to
you
address
want,
your
ma'am.
concerns.
One more
Okay?
time, you're out.
We want him to address your concerns. You brought up a lot of good concerns and questions. We want to know how they're going to deal with these questions and concerns. So, sir, go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you, and I want to thank the people that took the time to come here and give their opinions tonight. I want to say that, and I think it's important, that each of the concerns that have been raised here tonight were also addressed by the staff in coming up with the recommendations that they tendered to this committee approving this particular project. At the end of the day, this county has a competent professional staff whose job was to look at this particular project in an unbiased, objective manner. And in doing so, taking all these concerns into mind, they came up with an approval and recommendation for an approval of this project. And coming from the staff's recommendation, the staff found the public health, safety, and welfare are unlikely to be detrimentally affected by project. Sure, there's going to be more traffic, and sure, there's going to be some noise, but all the studies that have been done, they weren't done by Call Valley. They were done by a certified engineer, Mr. Ingram, and his firm. And when there was questions or concerns raised about those engineering studies, the traffic and the noise studies, this staff took the time to go back and say, we need further investigation, we need further review, we need further facts developed. And it was only after they submitted these final reports, I think they were in June 28th of this year, that the recommendations came forward and will continue to be received from the staff as of today. I think there's also a question that was raised whether or not these recommendations and approvals were received by each of these governmental, state, and governmental agencies.
The staff has those written recommendations and approvals from each of those agencies I discussed, and I have them here today. And the information we put in our slide projections were quotes from the reports and approvals issued by each of the state and federal agencies that reviewed this particular project. The wildlife concerns, the water concerns, and the environmental concerns were addressed, and you still receive the approval from the state and federal agencies who are, his job it is to review those applications and determine whether there's going to be any adverse environmental or wild effects on the wildlife. And those didn't come back from those particular agencies. We're not making this up, it's documented and it's in the staff's file.
Okay, one gentleman said there was an eagle out there. Do you know if that has been checked?
I don't know if there's
And is that something that can cause you to cease?
Well, that's certainly not within my purview of expertise. I can tell you that when the studies were done and when the investigation was done by the appropriate state and federal agencies, they found there was not going to be any adverse impact on the wildlife. I will also state that there is some question as to routes, and there are a number of conditions the staff has attached to the special use permit. And one of them is quarterly water reports and inspections, which was the gentleman from DeSoto raised that. That isn't a condition of this particular special use permit that was suggested by the staff. And there are a number of conditions that have to be complied with or the special use permit will be pulled. I mean, Call Valley realizes they're going to be investing a substantial amount of money into this project. To not follow through on the special use conditions and have their permit pulled doesn't make financial sense to anyone. And once again, if there are violations, it can be brought before this board and the special use permit pulled.
And I think other agencies can probably stop it also, correct?
Correct. And I should, Crystal had a picture up there of this property is in a floodplain. And the only use of it is agriculture. I mean, the best and highest use for this and what it's been determined is for agriculture. Any agriculture or any industrial use that goes into that property is going to result in increased noise and increased traffic. However, the studies that have been done on noise by competent people have indicated that the noise limits are within the acceptable federal and state limits for noise within that area. And this equipment is not going to be running 24/7 as suggested by some of the people. It's electric, it's silent, much more silent than the fuel generated equipment, and that's going to be limiting the noise in that area. 6 to 6 is when it's going to be in operation, and the truck traffic is only going to be between 7:20, 7:30, and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. As far as the roads, the county is insisting and has recommended that the Call Valley pay a yearly fee to maintain and improve these roads, to take care of the safety concerns that the roads are going to deteriorate and not be in proper use. So we're going to follow the recommendations suggested by the staff if we get approval to build this particular project. And the other thing is, there is nothing in the staff report that addresses any concerns that are raised that the operation of the sand pit there is going to adversely affect the agricultural property surrounding this area. I mean, I know it may be a concern, but there's nothing that was presented by the staff in their recommendations or by anyone else that's going to adversely impact the surrounding agricultural use of the properties. Are there any other, and final, with respect to the Burning Tree Country Club, the truck traffic from this property is specifically prohibited from going south. So it's not going to go by the country club and the golf course, and the pit where the dredging is going to be is half a mile away from the golf course. So, and there already is a line of trees in existence there which provide some sort of a berm, but there'll be additional trees planted in that area to protect the people on the golf course.
Okay. You said the person who did traffic study is here?
Mr. Ingram?
Would you please come up, sir? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Tom Ingram. I'm an engineer with Cook Flat and Strobel, and our address is 1421 East 104th Street, Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay. You did this traffic study?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And what is your overall opinion, I guess, of it? We said in a report, but your thoughts on it and concerns, if any?
Well, the roads are 2-lane. There's not a lot of traffic on them. We've looked at the volumes and.
Not a lot of traffic?
Well, there's, bear with me. There is, I guess I'm just rambling here with your question. I'm sorry, sir. I think you could get the trucks safely through there. Somebody observed that there are semi-trucks that have been driving through this. We did talk to Bonner Springs very early in the project. I think I talked to the head of street maintenance over there, and he said that Loring Street and the Levee Road, I think the one that runs diagonally along the levee, they had quite a bit of truck traffic on it, and he didn't seem concerned with our trucks if they were going to go on to Loring Road in that direction. Now, the Loring Road is a 26-foot wide street. It's paved, it's striped at 11-foot lane. You've got a 2-foot shoulder, and I think AASHTO recommends for a 50-mile-an-hour street with the volume of traffic on that street that you would need about a 6-foot graded shoulder on the side. That's the minimum.
So that road wouldn't make it for 50?
Well, the road carries, I think it's like 900 cars a day is what the current KDOT traffic volume map shows. Now, if we were to add on to that another 160, 80 trucks back and forth.
And you're talking at 50 miles an hour?
Well, it's posted, yeah, the posted speed limit is 50 miles an hour.
Would you recommend that to be lowered?
That might be an option. We could do it. I'm sure a lot of people are, if they're used to traveling at 50 miles an hour, it's hard to, it could be lowered as a safety factor. It could be lowered. But I don't know how much we want to lower to, 45 or?
Well, there seems to be 40 is going to a lot of our county roads that are similar to that, and reduced to 40 miles an hour. I know there's one out by me that's very similar to that, it's 35, so. Any questions, guys?
I have one for Call Valley.
Okay. If anybody, you can ask anybody.
Okay. Would you care to address, one of the folks talked about the violations not being rectified, 55 violations, what it was? Would you address that, please?
Well, I'm not sure that the number is accurate. Have there been violations over the years, that 35 years that Call Valley has been in operation? I assume that there are. I am not personally aware of, and I've represented Call Valley for a while. That doesn't mean there aren't violations that I haven't been made aware of. But when those violations occur, it's my understanding, just from talking to the owners, that in the past they have been addressed and taken care of. Anytime you operate a sand facility, a processing plant, and the various other businesses that Call Valley is engaged in, there's an opportunity for violations, safety violations to occur. That happens to every company that's operating in business. We had several people come in here and talk about they were involved in the construction business over the years. I'd be willing to bet their same companies had safety violations. That doesn't mean they weren't addressed and properly resolved.
No, I understand that. Who said that about the safety violations?
I did.
All right, where are you getting that information?
It's from the MSHA
Where?
website.
Hold on. You need to come up so we get it of record.
Yeah,
You're going to make a comment, you're going to
I'll
ask a
give it
question,
to you.
and we can ask.
I'm not giving it to him, but I'll give it to you.
Okay, and you said there
Google it
were,
on the website too.
you said there were so many violations that had not been,
They're delinquent. Well, it shows it right there. I mean, it says delinquent.
how many is it?
There was 142 citations and 37 of them are delinquent.
And how long a period is that over?
2006 is when it was
Since
back to us.
2006?
Correct.
You want care to address that, sir?
I would just be speculating with respect to the violations. Several of those are pending and still have not been resolved. And I'm talking to Mr. Hayes, are still pending in their early resolution stage. So,
And you have legal counsel here. Are you aware of any of this legal counsel? Call Valley Legal Counsel?
we're both legal counsel for Call Valley.
Okay,
That's
you're
right.
both lawyers?
Yes.
Correct.
I'm sorry. Okay.
It happens all the time.
I know. That's a concern of mine, dealing with a company that's got, I understand, everybody has stuff that they have to rectify. I get that, but when you got a bunch of them that are not, that are 37 of them are delinquent, that seems to be, I don't know if it's the kind of company I want to deal with.
Well, I think the fact that you also have to look at the fact that Call Valley's been in operation for
No, I know.
35 years
I know.
too. It's not a fly-by-night company.
Sir?
Yeah, thanks.
We were shown several pictures of different sand plant operators around the area, and it looked like, the ones I saw anyway, all had rather steep sides, almost straight up and down. And you talked about how when you're done with this job, it would be a nice lake for the citizens to use. Were all those sites going to be sloped, or were they going to be left, also at a 90-degree angle?
Well, I think the top, what the staff has recommended, that the top store will be reserved and then replaced at the end of the, as part of a reclamation project, and this will be a pond that could be used for, by the current landowner. It's going to be a pond for them unless they do something with the property between now and the end of the lease term. And I think it's going to be properly sloped to make sure that it can be used as a pond.
How big a pond will it be while you're on it?
But it depends on how much dredging is done between now and the end of the lease.
5 acres, 10 acres, 1 acre?
100.
100 acre. So it's not really a pond, it's more like a lake. Okay.
Well, it'll be, yes, a lake.
Well, yeah, it probably won't be fed, but it'll be big as a lake, but it's not spring fed or.
No, it's not
fed.
spring fed.
Yeah, right.
Now, somebody from the city of Linwood said that, they had a well a quarter mile away from the site, and it was between 50 and 80 feet, I believe, is what he said, deep. How deep are you going to be pumping sand out? How deep, I guess, would the water be in this lake that will be developed, and will it go below where their intake is, or will it stay above that 50 to 80 feet?
The cutter, my name's Dan Hayes, I'm with Call Valley, 5600 Kansas Avenue. Our cutter on the dredge is 38 foot. So after the overburden is taken off, pit's dug, it will be, when we hit down to the water table comes up, and then our cutter's at 38 foot.
Okay, with counting of removing the overburden, and then your 38 foot that you can dredge with your dredge, what kind of footage are we talking about altogether? Just from the original surface, are we talking 50 or 60?
Well, we
or
believe there's
45 or whatever.
About 6 to 10 foot of overburden.
Okay, so roughly 45 feet without being precise on that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sir, could you address the issue of the water quality and the wells that came up? You just talk a little bit about that.
Well, all I know is when we've done our testing and the staff recommendations is that there's going to be quarterly water tests done to make sure there's no contamination or no runoff of contaminated water. There's also going to be some berms created around the water sites to prevent water from going over.
I guess I was more concerned about the wells than maybe the runoff and that type
Well,
of
I
thing.
think that was addressed by Mr. Hayes about the depth of the digging that's going to take place on the site. It's going to be above the water wells from DeSoto. At least that's the 80 foot, I think, came from the DeSoto gentleman.
Fence, again, I was kind of surprised that we didn't see fencing in the requirements, because a lot of times on something like this, we do have fencing. So.
Well, first of all, even if it's not preferred by the staff, it is preferred by Call Valley, just as a protection and as another layer of potential prevention of exposure. If you don't have something around that pond, people can get in there and people can get hurt, and then the first person's going to come in and say you should have had a fence around there. So that will be something they will do.
You know what type of fence, how high, whatever.
The fence would be, just standard chain link fence, 8 foot high, 6 foot high, 8 foot high.
Okay.
And it would also be flood breakaway fence. There was a question on, since we're in the floodway, if a major flood came, would that fence stand up and hold back debris? You put the fabric on the downstream side of the poles, and you can put in aluminum breakaway hog ties, so that if any flood debris actually hit that thing, the fence would break and it would let that go through. It'd fall down and you have to come back and do it. I've got an in-law of an in-law who works at Broski Fence, and he told me the St. Andrews Golf Course over in Overland Park just installed several hundred feet of this breakaway fence just for that purpose.
So that will be around the whole site then?
I think so. You do the whole side. And can I revisit a couple of questions you had on the pond? The main pond is on a 160-acre quarter section. Now, with the processing area, the whole surface area, when they're finished, would probably be about 120, maybe 130 acres total. So you're right, it's not really a pond, it's more of a small lake.
Yeah.
Now, the slopes of that pond, they'd come in at a 4-to-1, so it wouldn't be just a steep up and down slope, because the natural repose angle of sand, if you just dump it into a pile, it's about 38 degrees. It's actually about a 2-to-1, but it will be sloped in like a 1 or a 4, so that somebody could, it wouldn't just go right off the cliff or anything. So does that?
And the only thing I'd like to add with respect to the fence, obviously, if you're going to have the fence, you're going to have adequate signage on that fence, warning of potential danger of climbing over the fence and of going into the fenced area.
Well, I think signage was there, but I was missing a fence, and usually on something like this, there is a fence, and I was kind of surprised it wasn't in that, and that was one thing I did have concerns about. People, when you're not in business, coming on site and getting into trouble.
Oh, can I revisit the groundwater contamination?
Sure.
Now, our site, it would be electric. The dredge is electric, all of the production equipment, the conveyor belts, the washer, the pumps, that's all electrically powered. The only fuel is diesel fuel for the loader and for the trucks. And all of the lubrication equipment, or the lubrication, the oils and the greases, it's biodegradable materials. So there really wouldn't be any pollutants or minimal amount coming off of the site that would get into the pond. And as part of the KDHE land disturbance permit, we have to put up 18-inch high containment berms around those ponds to prevent farm runoff from running into it and getting to it. And if you think about it, that pond, if we're going to do the surface mining, we will not be putting down fertilizers or pesticides or any of that. That's going to percolate right through that porous sand. So I just wanted to add that.
All right, any other questions?
What type of tanks, you have diesel, will they have a containment berm around them? Or?
They'll be double-walled containment, and they have to have the SPCC, the spill prevention containment, so that they won't spill. I think those containment tanks, they're designed so that if the big tank inside it splits, it has to completely hold it.
Yeah.
So that won't spill.
Questions? Thank you. Any comments, concerns? Mike, we heard a lot about roads. Are you comfortable?
Yes, we've presented our recommendations through planning and zoning to the applicant, and the applicant has assured us that they are going to meet all of our required and as well as impact fees to address any other concerns that they might have.
Is there a thought about lowering the speed limit in that area?
We absolutely will take into consideration any countermeasures that might be necessary to ensure the proper operations of the roadways.
You get the cooperation of Wyandotte County once we cross the line, or do we have to worry about it?
That is a designated truck route within the city of Bonner Springs. We did coordinate with Bonner Springs, and they did make us aware it is a designated truck route. So Bonner Springs, although a brightly colored councilman didn't seem to understand that, it did, that's where they expect and that's where they want trucks, so.
We have to upgrade our roads so they have shoulders. Maybe the machine says about 6 foot wide shoulders. Somebody in the audience did.
Well, 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
We've anticipated the impact fee would be levied in order to make upgrades to the roadway.
Are any of those roads chip and sealed?
Chip seal is the primary surface of most of the roadways. However, the impact fees that we have requested envision that we would be making improvements to the surface.
None of them are dust abatement.
No, none of them are dust abatement roads. They've all existed in their current condition well over 20 years in that regard.
So are you planning going asphalt? Is that what you're?
That was yes, we absolutely anticipate that we will need to, we absolutely anticipate that there will be additional need for maintenance on the roadway, and we've calculated a fee that we feel is in accordance with that impact.
And that's 107,000, 110,000, is that right, a year?
It's in that neighborhood, I don't remember the exact number.
Is that just for maintenance once all the improvements that need to be done?
There are additional improvements that we have asked for from the applicant outside of that. That is an annual impact that we've calculated.
There's going to be an upfront cost to get those roads and everything up to snuff before you go into the annual fee, is that correct?
There is some additional traffic considerations that we've asked for to include some acceleration, deceleration, and turning radiuses. We've also asked for some additional consideration as part of the traffic impact that was.
Well, yeah, I saw that in all that there's some certain things, but that's Call Valley's going to pay for all that.
Yes, that is the
They're going to pay to
intention.
get those roads upgraded to where they're good and safe, and then continuously every year pay so much to maintain them. Is that correct?
The roadways will be maintained with the additional impact fees.
No, I got that, Mike. I understand that. There's an upfront cost to get those roads up to snuff right now. Who's going to pay for that?
Yeah, the solution is the additional impact fee.
On top of what the normal fee will be. That's why I'm getting confused. There's an upfront cost. Someone's got to pay to get those roads squared away. Somebody's got to pay for that. And then every year after that, there's a maintenance fee.
So we've asked them to add additional lanes and such, and they are providing that. And then we will then collect additional impact fee.
I understand. Thanks, sir.
But if you're talking about like the initial road surface,
Right.
no. The additional impact fee will offset those costs, so.
Really?
Okay.
Any plans to widen any of the roads?
We may have to make geometric improvements in some locations.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Heard a lot of information, guys. I'll entertain a motion. I would like to add, if you're going to move to approve, I would like to add that fence to it. I think it's important, and they were going to do it anyway. No reason not to have it in there. That's my thoughts.
I would like to make a motion that we approve case DEV 19-008 with the addition of the fencing and all the criteria listed by our staff.
A motion on the floor to approve it and add the fencing, and that was 8-foot chain link fence. Okay?
The retaining stuff we were talking about.
And all of the other, how many things were there? There was 20 requirements?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion on the floor with second to approve case number DEV 19-008, special use permit for surface mining and sand quarry, the Nape Sand Quarry. The staff recommendations, 1 through, what did I say, 20, and adding 21 8-foot chain link fence around the property. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, we need to recite the golden rules on that, don't we?
I was going to, excuse
Yeah.
me, and I'd like to welcome the new members to the Planning Commission. It is required that you enumerate through the golden criteria specific findings with respect to either granting or denying the special use permit. It is required by law. That were earlier recited to you. I think your staff report covers that as well. So I think you do need to go through those.
Thank you, I did forget that. You know where they're at?
Well, there's your short list right there. Oh, on that one. Okay, excuse me. I'm sorry.
All right. A motion would include the following factors: character of the neighborhood. Use the word.
Yeah, you can, whatever you feel is right.
Considering the character of the neighborhood and the recommendations by staff, zoning and uses of nearby property. Again, the regulations by staff, suitability of the property for the uses to which it has been restricted. With the recommendations of staff, stability of the property, extent to which removal of the restrictions will detrimentally affect property nearby. Yes, it would, given all the ramifications and the concerns of the constituents in the room tonight. Length of time the property has been vacant, the zone has been zoned, as we've heard, from over 20 years. And the relative gain to economic development, public health, safety, and welfare. The county would be collecting additional taxes. I'm not going to say there's going to be additional jobs because I don't know that fact, but that would be the conditions I would recommend attached to my motion. And that should be all of them, unless excuse me, there is 7 and 8. Conforms to the comprehensive plan, it does conform, and staff recommendation is for approval. So we're accepting that. There.
Any other?
Will the second accept that?
Second will accept it.
Okay. Again, any discussion? Roll call vote. John Matthews.
Yes.
Terry Bukowski.
No.
And your reason?
I am voting no because of the golden list, number 6. I don't see that there is relative gain to economic development. Market economic analysis does not, and what I've been told, I don't see that there's any economic gain to the county. I think there are public health concerns. My biggest is safety and welfare. I just am concerned that it's not safe enough.
Mark Denny.
As I've thought about this, there's probably not a better place if we're going to have a sand pit in Leavenworth County than this right here. It's in I-3, it's in a floodplain. So if we're going to have it, this would be the place to have it, except for the roads. I can't get past the roads. And the safety of it, I know staff has looked at it, but I've driven those roads. And then the return on investment, like Terry was saying, I just don't think it's in the county's best economic interest where the benefits outweigh the potential cost. So I'm going to vote no.
Alex DeMiro.
At this point, no.
No? Okay. Wolf Smith.
It's a no for me too, for some of the reasons that Terry and Mark mentioned.
Okay. Rocky?
Yes.
And I'm going to vote yes. However, the motion fails 3-4. That's our recommendation to the county commissioners, right? Okay, the county commissioners will consider this item July 31st, 2019 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Everybody, they're the ones who get paid to make the decision, so they'll be the final decision. Anything else?
Nope, that's all, yeah.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.